Chapter 862. A red light streaked across the sky above the desert, bringing with it a wave of heat. A sharp whistling sound pierced through the entire desert, causing the sand on the ground to be incinerated, leaving behind a blazing path of flames. Luo Shang quickly crossed the desert, flames burning around his body as if he wanted to escape from Gu Chaofeng's pursuit. However, at this moment, the space in front of Luo Shang surged. Immediately after, 13 white pearls shot out from the void and attacked Luo Shang. So the disciple of Sword Shadow Qinfeng is also so weak. With your strength, you want to oppose our third palace? What a fool's dream! Gu Chaofeng's voice came from the void. Luo Shang's forward steps were immediately stopped. The burning heaven sword in his hand appeared and met the 13 white pearls head-on. A huge fluctuation exploded once again, the sound of the explosion shaking the heavens. Gu Chaofeng's figure had already appeared in front of Luo Shang. He revealed an arrogant smile as he looked at Luo Shang with ridicule. "You won't be able to escape," Luo Shang said indifferently. "I never planned on escaping." Runes suddenly rippled from the desert beneath their feet. An 8-trigram rune swept out. This 8-trigram rune was extremely vast, covering the entire desert within 1,000 miles. And at this time, a rune also appeared in the sky 1,000 miles above, resonating with the runes on the ground. An ancient rune fell down from the sky, and with the boundary of the 8 trigrams runes as the boundary, it formed a cage that completely trapped Luo Shang and Gu Chaofeng. "It's just that you won't be able to escape," Luo Shang said coldly. Gu Chaofeng's expression sank. He looked at the powerful rune fluctuations in the surroundings and immediately reacted. "Mu Yu." His gaze swept outwards, wanting to find traces of Mu Yu. However, there was no obvious killing aura that belonged to Mu Yu. There was no second killing aura within 1,000 miles. "You're luring me here?" Gu Chaofeng tried to tear apart the void and walk, but the space here was sealed by the 8-trigram rune beneath his feet. He was unable to break through it. Luo Shang coldly looked at Gu Chaofeng. He didn't even bother to reply. He raised the burning heaven sword once again, and this time, the might of the burning heaven sword was much stronger than before. It was as if his cultivation had suddenly increased, and he was a completely different person from before. "You deliberately hid your strength?" Gu Chaofeng's expression became increasingly gloomy. No wonder he had felt that something was amiss earlier. Luo Shang, the disciple of Jian Ying and Qinfeng, had actually been injured by him in a single strike and had even fled. It turned out that all of this had been a bait. The burning heaven sword in Luo Shang's hand erupted with a shocking sword qi. The sword qi shot out into the distance and entered the sky. Immediately, the wind and clouds surged in the sky, as if all the spirit qi was attracted by the burning heaven sword's sword qi. That tyrannical sword seemed to communicate with the heavens and earth, and a majestic and fanatical sword qi instantly descended from the sky. "Soul Technique Luo Yin, Soul Breaker Spear." Gu Chaofeng shouted loudly. The long spear in his hand instantly became thousands of feet tall. The 13 pearls were all strung together, merging into the white long spear. The long spear instantly became incomparably sharp. White soul force endlessly dispersed from the pearls, forming a vortex that interweaved on the long spear's blade. With a thrust of the spear, the air seemed to have been pierced through, becoming incomparably viscous. Bang! The soul breaker spear and burning heaven sword collided with each other, as if it was a confrontation between the heavens and earth. The entire desert trembled once again, and a berserk wave swept out like a stormy sea. The surrounding space was like paste, causing people to involuntarily stop breathing. Whoosh! Sword qi and spear shadows interweaved once again, revealing their sharpness. Heat waves soared into the sky, incomparably terrifying. Luo Shang had already leaned forward, and the burning heaven sword brought along a blazing sword qi as it slashed onto the soul breaker spear. A tyrannical aura violently swept out, causing Gu Chaofeng's arm to feel numb. His body instantly shot out, pulling apart the distance between him and Luo Shang. As expected, I've underestimated you. Gu Chaofeng's hands were slightly numb, and the aftermath of the sword qi revolved around his arm. Then, the soul force in his entire body trembled, destroying the sword qi. However, if you think that you can deal with me like this, then you're still thinking too much. The soul breaker spear in Gu Chaofeng's hand had already disappeared, transforming back into 13 white fist-sized pearls. These pearls instantly stopped in front of him, and then a soul breaker spear fiercely shot out from each of the pearls. A total of 13 soul breaker spears left behind afterimages in the air as they pierced towards Luo Shang. However, right at this moment, Gu Chaofeng suddenly tilted his head and looked towards an area 300 feet to the east. He sneered, an intense killing intent. Mu Yu, are you hiding in this place? As he spoke, 7 spear shadows turned a corner and pierced towards an area 300 feet to the east. Bang! That killing intent came quickly, and left quickly as well. The 7 spear shadows didn't hit anyone, but instead hit the 8 trigrams formation on the ground, causing the 8 trigrams formation to tremble once again. At this moment, Luo Shang's burning heaven sword had already shattered the remaining 6 spear shadows and was closing in on Gu Chaofeng. Gu Chaofeng waved his hand again, and the 13 white pearls began to revolve in front of him, forming a white gale that blocked Luo Shang's burning heaven sword. Your master is already the Lord's prisoner. What can the 5 of you do? I'll bring you to see your master. Gu Chaofeng sneered and forced Luo Shang to retreat. You have to have the ability to do so, Luo Shang said indifferently. What? Could it be that you want to overturn the heavens? No, you will die, Luo Shang said indifferently. Haha. I want to see what method you have to kill me. Gu Chaofeng's expression was incomparably arrogant. Even though he was so arrogant, he still looked so sacred. I said you will die. The burning heaven sword in Luo Shang's hand suddenly trembled. The clouds in the sky above him seemed to have changed shape due to the raging flames, emitting a strange red light. At this moment, the burning heaven sword in his hand seemed to have transformed into 9 sword shadows, and each sword shadow displayed the sword power of the heavenly sword 9 draws in the air. Each burning heaven sword seemed unstoppable, and in a certain instant, all the sword shadows gathered together, leaving only the burning heaven sword in the air. 9 returned to 1. The burning heaven sword seemed to have caused the air to be violently compressed. The violent sword qi surged, setting off a huge wave that overflowed the heavens. In the blink of an eye, it arrived in front of Gu Chaofeng. Gu Chaofeng's expression changed slightly. This sword was incomparably powerful in his eyes, and it was unstoppable. He roared, and the soul-breaking spear appeared once again, welcoming the burning heaven sword. Bang! After the soul-breaking spear met the burning heaven sword, it actually broke apart inch by inch, transforming into white soul power that scattered in all directions. However, the sword intent of the burning heaven sword did not decrease in power as it headed for Gu Chaofeng's chest. The 13 white pearls reappeared, and each of them exploded. Immediately after, a white vortex appeared in front of him, sucking him in. Luo Shang frowned slightly. The sword qi turned slightly and reversed, heading towards the void in the distance. Boom! 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 Countless fluctuations appeared in the void, and countless white brilliance overflowed from the void. Luo Shang's sword qi pursued relentlessly, piercing through the void, wanting to force Gu Chaofeng out. However, Gu Chaofeng's fleeing speed was extremely fast, and Luo Shang's sword qi was unable to catch up for a moment. However, at this moment, the 8 trigrams array pattern suddenly trembled, and the entire void seemed to be squeezed. Following that, the pressure became greater and greater, and the escape path of the white light was also sealed by the array pattern, as if it was being held by an invisible large hand. The strength of the large hand became stronger and stronger. Bang! Gu Chaofeng's figure was blasted out of the void in a sorry state. However, before he could stabilize himself, a killing intent appeared once again. This time, Gu Chaofeng did not dodge it. How is this possible? Gu Chaofeng looked at his chest in disbelief. It was unknown when, but it seemed as if something had pierced through there. However, he did not see anything, and he did not know what had entered his body. Looking at the shape of the wound, it should be a sword, but this sword seemed to be invisible to him. What shocked him the most was that a terrifying tearing force suddenly emerged from the empty bloody hole in his chest. This terrifying tearing force was actually swallowing the soul power in his body. How is this possible? Gu Chaofeng muttered. Then, he suddenly thought of something and shouted in shock and anger, "Mu Yu! You found out too late." Mu Yu appeared behind Gu Chaofeng with killing intent. He had endless resentment in his heart, and he wanted to vent it on this person. Mu Ling's sword quickly swallowed Gu Chaofeng's soul power. "Damn it, you actually dare to do this to me!" Gu Chaofeng's expression quickly became dispirited. He strenuously tried to struggle free from that invisible sword, but he could not see anything. Luo Shang's sword qi dissipated in the air. He indifferently looked at Gu Chaofeng, who had been pierced by Mu Yu's sword, and said, "You don't need to do anything. I am enough to kill this filthy thing." "You can defeat him, but you can't kill him," Mu Yu replied. Luo Shang lightly snorted and did not refute. The people of the third layer palace had too many methods to escape. If Mu Yu had not set up a formation to seal this space, Gu Chaofeng might have really escaped. "Damn it, that trashy Fian actually couldn't stop you." Gu Chaofeng angrily spat out a few words. "Are you talking about this?" The formation in Mu Yu's hand jumped, and a white light flowed out. It was the method that Gu Chaofeng had used to inform Yi Fian to stop Mu Yu. "You?" Gu Chaofeng was stunned. "To be honest, I also want to kill that Yi Fian, but we still have things to do. Let's leave his dog life for now." Mu Yu's formation shook, and the white light that Gu Chaofeng used to transmit the message shattered. Mu Yu had already sensed that someone was following him, so he had separated from Luo Shang and set up a trap formation here. He had let Luo Shang lure Gu Chaofeng into the trap formation. He knew that the people of the third layer palace must have used their slaughter energy as a guide to follow him. Thus, he used the true essence that the white ape demon king had left in his body to conceal his slaughter energy so that Gu Chaofeng could not sense it. Just kill him. Luo Shang's killing intent was clear. Chapter 863. Back then, Yi Fian from the Extreme Immortal Pavilion used something similar to a teleportation formation to escape in front of them. Mu Yu knew that the people from the third layer palace had many tricks up their sleeves. That was why he had Luo Shang pretend to be defeated and lure Gu Chaofeng into the trap formation. He personally set up to ensure that nothing would go wrong. At this moment, Mu Yu's sword energy had invaded Gu Chaofeng's body. The sword energy contained an extremely powerful devouring power and deterrence power, causing Gu Chaofeng to lose all ability to resist. "I have blood protection shrouding the sky. How can you hear me?" Mu Yu asked Gu Chaofeng. Gu Chaofeng laughed loudly. "Blood protection shrouding the sky is indeed powerful, but we have already discovered the hardness of this formation. I won't tell you the exact reason, but Deadwood Evergreen can no longer protect you." "Ah!" The sword energy in Mu Yu's hand became stronger. The sword energy invaded Gu Chaofeng's body. Gu Chaofeng let out a miserable scream. His entire body trembled non-stop. He reached out to grab behind him, but he couldn't catch Mu Yu's figure. Mu Yu was already standing in front of Gu Chaofeng. His eyes were filled with cold, killing intent. "Filthy trash!" Mu Yu spat in disgust. Mu Ling's sword had already turned into countless thin branches that covered Gu Chaofeng's meridians. Those branches were wrapped in powerful life and death auras. These life and death auras were the natural nemesis of soul power. They flowed through Gu Chaofeng's meridians, causing him to be unable to gather any spirit power. The holy white light around Gu Chaofeng's body gradually weakened, revealing his original appearance. This was a man who looked to be in his 30s. At this moment, his entire body was covered in a black and white aura. Even his veins were like black and white worms that were moving around. "You are now a prisoner. You don't have the right to be arrogant," Mu Yu said coldly. Gu Chaofeng looked at Mu Yu with hatred. After the holy white light dimmed, he looked very sinister, no different from an ordinary person. "You can give up on that idea. I won't tell you anything." Gu Chaofeng squeezed these words out from between his teeth. "I heard that you guys cultivate soul power. I want to see what you look like without soul power." Mu Yu controlled the tree branch to invade Gu Chaofeng's body. It only absorbed his soul power and didn't touch his life force. "You bastard!" Gu Chaofeng roared in shock and fury, but Mu Yu's methods were specifically to restrain these soul forces. He did not intend to show any mercy. The white light slowly shrunk back into Gu Chaofeng's body. His skin also gradually shriveled up. His originally plump and rosy skin lost the support of his soul power and began to deform, becoming hideous and terrifying. It was as if water had been drained from his skin, and a layer of wrinkled skin stuck to his bones. "Stop! Stop!" Gu Chaofeng cried out in pain. Mu Yu stopped absorbing the soul power and looked at Gu Chaofeng. The human skin he was dealing with was like a layer of disguise, incomparably ugly. "Answer my question," Mu Yu said. Gu Chaofeng gasped for breath. "Let's make a deal. Let me go, and I'll tell you the reason." The tree root Mu Ling turned into began to absorb the soul power in Gu Chaofeng's body. "I have no interest in making a deal with you. Even if you don't tell me, I'll find the reason myself," Mu Yu said simply. Voila! The shriveled skin on Gu Chaofeng's body began to crack and fall off, revealing a lump of white sticky skin. Red blisters grew all over his skin, as if he had been scalded by boiling water. His face also began to elongate, his ears became very sharp, his nose caved in, and his eyes turned yellow. Old Hairy Monkey said that when you cultivate soul power, you'll become neither human nor ghost. So this is your original appearance? Mu Yu looked at Gu Chaofeng's ugly appearance. He originally thought that the White Ape Demon King's so-called, neither human nor ghost, was a type of mockery towards the holy light possessing the body. He didn't expect that it was the true meaning of neither human nor ghost. Thinking back to how this guy had been suffused with a holy white light at the beginning, making him look like a god. Now, he looked like a filthy slug. The sharp contrast between before and after was truly the greatest irony. Why does a disgusting thing like you look like you're wearing the skin of a human? Luo Shang slowly walked to Gu Chaofeng's side, the disgust in his eyes completely visible. "You two bastards, daring to treat me like this, I'll definitely make you die without a burial ground." Gu Chaofeng, whose outer appearance had been exposed, revealed his sharp teeth. Originally, he still had the appearance of a holy and imposing human. After his soul power was absorbed by Mu Ling, he actually turned into a lump of ugliness. Perhaps no one in the cultivation world would have thought that the threefold palace they believed in would actually look like this. Your appearance is ugly, so you used soul power as a disguise to make yourself look incomparably holy. Using this as a pretext to become the belief of cultivators, is it like this? Mu Yu loathed the monsters of the threefold palace to the extreme. These monsters of the threefold palace were comparable to the people of the Moon Clan. The Moon Clan was also a clan that was proficient in disguise. Mu Yu still vaguely remembered that when he first met Akatsuki in the chaotic burial valley, the other party looked like a woman with an extremely beautiful figure. Only later did she reveal the appearance of a monster with fleshy wings and horns. Cultivating soul power turned you into this, yet you can still accept it. Truly amazing. Luo Shang coldly looked at Gu Chaofeng, his tone full of disdain. Soul power was a kind of power obtained from the souls of the dead. This kind of power was indeed powerful, but unfortunately, the price of turning oneself into a neither human nor ghost was too great. You two ants, I will definitely not let you off. Gu Chaofeng's entire body was contaminated by life and death energy. He was in unbearable pain, and his ugly body had already shrunk into a lump. I'll make him speak. Luo Shang's hand already lit up with a pale white flame. The aura was extremely gloomy, as if it was a will-o'-the wisp that came from the yellow springs. The pale white flame jumped onto Gu Chaofeng's body like flowing water, slowly covering every inch of Gu Chaofeng's skin. However, what was strange was that Gu Chaofeng's body didn't have any traces of being burned, but he suddenly let out a terrified cry. Ah, bastard, how did you obtain this kind of flame? Ah, stop. Gu Chaofeng directly smashed into the ground from midair. His entire body was constantly twisting on the ground. The flame lightly jumped on his body without any special characteristics, but it made him feel so much pain that he wished he was dead. Bone fire. Once infected, the entire body's flesh and skin won't burn. Only the bones will be directly incinerated. I will turn you into a pile of boneless, rotten meat. Luo Shang said with a fiendish expression. Mu Yu didn't really understand Luo Shang's ability. Even this was the first time he had heard of bone fire. This thing sounded a bit cruel. However, Mu Yu didn't have any sympathy for this kind of monster from the Threefold Palace. Even if he cut the Threefold Palace into 1,000 pieces, it wouldn't be too much. Is my master still alive? Mu Yu asked. You want to know? In your dreams. Gu Chaofeng roared. An illusory white flame appeared in Luo Shang's hand again. If burning your bones isn't enough, I can also use soul fire to burn your soul. Gu Chaofeng's pupils suddenly widened. He was already extremely afraid of Luo Shang's flame. If it was a normal time, he wouldn't let these flames near him. However, now that Mu Yu's Mu Ling had sucked away all of his soul force, he was already in a state where he wished he was dead. He couldn't endure the torture of these flames at all. Ha ha, don't even think about getting any information from my mouth. What you need to know is that with just the two of you, it's impossible to save Jian Ying and Chen Feng. Ha! The veins in Gu Chaofeng's body began to become incomparably hard. His skin also began to show an ugly brown color. Following that, a powerful force began to accumulate in his body. This terrifying trend was something that even Mu Yu couldn't stop. He's going to self-destruct. Mu Yu's Mu Ling couldn't stop Gu Chaofeng from self-destructing. He immediately pulled back the Mu Ling and disappeared into the Mu Ling. Luo Shang also quickly entered the flames and disappeared. Boom! A berserk aura suddenly exploded with Gu Chaofeng's body as the center. This aura was chaotic and terrifying, capable of destroying the heavens and exterminating the earth. Layers of chi waves surged out, instantly destroying the 8 trigrams formation that Mu Yu had set up. The yellow sand of the desert instantly turned into nothingness. Following the earth-shaking explosion, it was as if a great earthquake had occurred within a radius of 10,000 li. Countless cracks appeared in the air, as if the void was about to be torn apart. The chi waves that could topple mountains and overturn seas blasted open a bottomless pit of 1,000 meters in the ground. The self-destruction of a tribulation passing stage cultivator actually produced such a terrifying power. Mu Yu and Luo Shang both reappeared. The berserk spirit energy around them was still reverberating, but it could no longer do anything to them. You're wrong. We will definitely save Master. Mu Yu clenched his fist. No matter what, they would save Master. Even if Master's eternal life body was taken away, they would definitely take back Master's eternal life body. Mu Yu closed his eyes and tried his best to suppress the hatred in his heart. This person's name is Gu Chaofeng. He's ranked 18th on the Supreme Immortal Leaderboard. A Supreme Immortal symbol appeared in Mu Yu's hand and he crushed it. What did you discover when you probed him just now? Luo Shang asked. Up until now, their understanding of the threefold palace was still too little. This was because the threefold palace was no longer a force that existed purely to protect the human race like the White Ape Demon King had said. Therefore, Luo Shang had pretended to lose and lured Gu Chaofeng here in order to capture Gu Chaofeng and learn more about the threefold palace. As long as I have killing intent towards him, he will sense it even if I don't use my killing intent, Mu Yu said. When Gu Chaofeng and Luo Shang were fighting, Mu Yu had been hiding his killing intent. Later on, he had only revealed a little killing intent, and Gu Chaofeng had sensed his movements and used the soul-shattering spear to attack him. This was only a test by Mu Yu, but it exposed the weakness of Mu Yu's blood protection shrouding heaven. Chapter 864. Against the Threefold Palace, Mu Yu's blood-shrouding sky was originally the most effective trump card. But now there was a problem with this trump card. Mu Yu nodded. It should be. If I don't have killing intent towards them, they won't be able to sense my existence. If I attack or reveal killing intent, they will know where I am and can hear my voice. As long as Mu Yu was willing, the blood-shrouding sky would protect him for a lifetime. But Mu Yu chose to fight the threefold palace to the end, so the blood-shrouding sky couldn't provide him with any convenience when fighting. Not only that, but the threefold palace's people can hurt me. When Mu Yu revealed killing intent towards Gu Chaofeng's soul-shattering spear didn't miss. In order to confirm this, Mu Yu took a hit from the soul-shattering spear and found that his arm was injured by the soul-shattering spear. But back then Luo Shang frowned. The blood-shrouding sky could protect me from soul power before, but it can't now. There must be a problem somewhere. Mu Yu felt very uncomfortable. Deadwood Daddy sacrificed his own life in exchange for Mu Yu's. This had always been a way for Mu Yu to feel that Deadwood Daddy was still alive. Now that the blood-shrouding sky seemed to have lost its effect, Mu Yu felt a sense of loss. He wasn't worried about losing a method to protect himself, but he felt a sense of guilt for destroying what Deadwood Daddy left for him. But how can you sense that this person is following us? When they left the White Ape Demon King, Mu Yu said that someone was following them. However, Luo Shang didn't sense any trace of Gu Chaofeng. In the end, he doubtfully listened to Mu Yu's plan and split up to capture Gu Chaofeng alive. I don't know. When Gu Chaofeng was a distance away from me, I felt it. I can't say what it is. Mu Yu wasn't very clear about this. Back then, he had purely sensed Gu Chaofeng's aura. This feeling was very sudden, as if he suddenly understood what Gu Chaofeng's soul force undulations were like. Perhaps even Gu Chaofeng hadn't thought of this. Their threefold palace had special tracking method. Back then, Gu Chaofeng had only relied on his keen sense of smell to track Mu Yu and Luo Shang's killing aura from afar. At such a distance, even Luo Shang would have a hard time detecting him. It wasn't just Luo Shang. If it wasn't for Mu Yu's reminder, even the White Ape Monster King wouldn't have known that there were people from the Threefold Palace hiding in the sky. The Threefold Palace's methods were very powerful. Luo Shang quickly looked at the mess in the desert below. Then, he looked into the distance and said, "We should leave. The commotion caused by his self-destruction is too great." The power of Gu Chaofeng's self-destruction was so great that it destroyed Mu Yu's 8 trigrams trap. The terrifying shockwaves spread far and wide, and would probably alert the people of Clearwater City, who were very far away. Okay. Mu Yu's figure had already fled into the distance. Luo Shang followed behind him. They flew for 2 hours before leaving the desert. They didn't care who Gu Chaofeng's self-destruction would attract, because they knew that there were still many things to be done. Mu Yu and Luo Shang stopped on a mountain peak outside the desert. "Are you going to look for the 9th person alone?" Luo Shang asked. Mu Yu nodded. He already knew the true face of the 9th person. The reason why he didn't tell the White Ape Demon King the truth was that he wasn't sure if the Threefold Palace had the ability to eavesdrop on their conversation. Moreover, the ninth person was a human. Mu Yu didn't expect the White Ape Demon King to protect this person. Can't you find Xiang Nan first? Luo Shang continued. It's very important for me to protect this person. If I'm not mistaken, the person who guided me to find the ninth person is Reverend Enile. If possible, I may be able to find Reverend Enile, Mu Yu said. After a long silence, Luo Shang asked, How do you plan to protect this person after you find him? I'll use a formation to hide the ninth person's existence so that he won't be discovered by the dragon-seeking formation and some other formations. Because this person is really, Mu Yu shook his head and didn't continue. The identity of the ninth person made him unable to calm down. He didn't expect the ninth person to be that person. Do you know this person? Luo Shang saw through Mu Yu's thoughts. Mu Yu nodded. With this person's current cultivation, he can't protect himself? Luo Shang asked. No. Mu Yu said. Then he said, when we faced Bai Jie, we didn't have the ability to protect ourselves, let alone him. The Threefold Palace was a behemoth. Their people occupied the top 20 of the Supreme Immortal list. Without exception, the top 20 Supreme Immortals were all at the Tribulation passing stage. Even in the ordinary 8 sects, there were no more than 5 Tribulation passing stage self-cultivators. If Bai Jie also found this person, then it would be troublesome. Where is Xiang Nan? Mu Yu asked. The Sand Eagle Demon King's heart appeared near the Gate of Hell. The Gate of Hell? Why is Xiang Nan going to the Gate of Hell? Mu Yu asked in surprise. We don't know what Xiang Nan is connected to the Gate of Hell, but I'll go there first. You should protect that person as soon as possible and meet up with me, Luo Shang said. A golden flame appeared in Luo Shang's palm again. It was only the size of a thumb. He sealed it with spiritual energy and handed it to Mu Yu. This is my heart flame. After you're done with your business, go to the Gate of Hell and channel your spiritual energy into this heart flame. I'll sense where you are. If you're within a certain range, the heart flame will fly to me. Mu Yu took Luo Shang's heart flame. It was just a flame, but he could feel a cold, killing intent. After he put away the heart flame, he left the mountain alone and disappeared into the horizon. In the desert, countless self-cultivators gathered at the place where Gu Chaofeng had self-destructed. The place was filled with chaotic spiritual energy. It was terrifying. The explosion just now was earth-shattering. There was even a dazzling light that shot into the sky. It was as if a treasure had fallen from the sky. Many self-cultivators thought that a precious treasure had appeared, so they all came to check it out. They wanted to get their hands on this opportunity before anyone else. However, when everyone arrived, they only saw a huge mess in the desert. Within a radius of 100 miles, there was a huge crater that was 1,000 meters deep. There was also an extremely powerful and strange energy that reverberated for a long time. Other than that, there was nothing else. Here. There's a strange white flame here. Is it Yaman? I don't know. Maybe it is. The self-cultivators gathered in front of the white flame at the bottom of the crater. Their faces were solemn. Many of them even revealed terrified expressions. This was because the news of Yaman destroying Eastern Sand City had already spread throughout the world of self-cultivators. If Yaman appeared here again, wouldn't that mean that their target would be Clearwater City? What should we do? Yaman has become so powerful? What if Yaman attacks Clearwater City? No, we definitely can't return to Clearwater City. We're not Yaman's match. Fear spread in the self-cultivators' hearts. Eastern Sand City and the other 3 cities that had been destroyed were all examples. Even a big city like Eastern Sand City couldn't survive Yaman's attack. How could Clearwater City do the same? I really hope that the Third Palace can quickly select the 9 mystic immortals and let them lead us to prepare for war. Right now, the only thing we can rely on is the third palace. The self-cultivators' fear of Yuman had already seeped deep into their hearts. Many of them were now in a state of panic, afraid that they would meet the elusive Yuman and die tragically at Yuman's hands. Everyone looked at the white flame in the crater. However, the flame's power was gradually weakening and it was on the verge of collapse. Everyone was bewildered by this flame. However, at this moment, the flame suddenly emitted a white light, following which, white ripples appeared in the surroundings and bounced everyone away. When everyone looked again, they were shocked to find that the white flame had disappeared. What's going on? What's with that white light? I'm not sure. Could it be Yuman is here? Then what are we waiting for? Let's get out of here. Someone shouted and the other self-cultivators started to flee. They didn't even think of joining forces to fight against the non-existent Yuman. Instead, they just wanted to escape. Thousands of miles above the crater, Jin Xiun of the Third Palace stood in the void. The white flame floated in front of her chest. This flame was the bone flame that Luo Shang used on Gu Chaofeng. I didn't expect Gu Chaofeng to be killed. Jin Xiun fiddled with the flame. Gu Chaofeng had used his remaining soul power to preserve this flame during the explosion, and it had even evaded Luo Shang's senses. Clearly, Gu Chaofeng had left something behind before he died to send a message to Jin Xiun. A white light was extracted from the flame by Jin Xiun and merged into her mind. So that's it. Mu Yu is indeed here. I didn't expect them to know our true identity. This is troublesome. Jin Xiun seemed to be talking to herself. She looked at the self-cultivators who were fleeing in panic thousands of miles below and suddenly let out a contemptuous voice. Fortunately, Gu Chaofeng self-destructed. The human race is now so weak that they are afraid of Yuman. This is also a good thing. It seems that I still have to help you and strengthen your faith in the Third Palace. The white flame shot out from Jin Xiun's hand and disappeared into the void. When it reappeared, it was already beside the self-cultivators. Then, the flame seemed to be stimulated by something and suddenly emitted 100,000 feet long flame. In an instant, hundreds of self-cultivators were all ignited. Chapter 865. Xiao Shuai seemed to have had a very long dream. In his dream, there were all kinds of fat and tempting roasted legs. When he wanted to grab the duck legs that were dancing in the air, he accidentally rolled out. Aya! Xiao Shuai rubbed his nose and got up from the ground. He rubbed his eyes sleepily and looked around. This was a quiet forest. The sunlight shone through the forest and sprinkled on their bodies. It was very comfortable. You're awake. Mu Yu slowly opened his eyes and woke up from his cultivation state. Then, he reached out and touched Xiao Shuai's head. Xiao Shuai was sleeping on the soft wooden bed next to him. It was specially made by him. The wood on the bed was soft to the touch, and was very comfortable to lie on. Xiao Shuai climbed onto Mu Yu's shoulder, yawned and said, "I'm starving." The first thing this guy did when he woke up was to touch his stomach and look for Mu Yu to get food. Here. Mu Yu handed 2 chicken legs to Xiao Shuai and touched Xiao Shuai's head with a smile. This was the first time he smiled in so many days. Too many things had happened during this period of time, making him feel very depressed. There was only killing left in his heart. Only when he was facing Xiao Shuai would he forcefully suppress the killing intent in his heart. Xiao Shuai was his master's sword spirit. He was mischievous, lively, and cute. At least Mu Yu had a trace of comfort in his heart. "How long have I been asleep?" Xiao Shuai asked with a lisp. "More than a month." "More than a month? That's good, that's not too long. Did anything interesting happen in the past month?" Xiao Shuai swallowed the 2 chicken legs in one go. Mu Yu also handed him a roasted golden fur tiger demon's thigh. These were all left after Xiao Shuai was unconscious. They were to satisfy Xiao Shuai's craving. "I found the 9th person of eternal life," Mu Yu said. Mu Yu told Xiao Shuai everything that happened in the past month in detail. How he met Old Shu after Xiao Shuai was unconscious, how he used the dragon searching formation to find the ninth person, how he killed Gu Chaofeng, and how Mu Yu went to find the ninth person of eternal life. Ah! How could the ninth person of eternal life be him? The chicken leg in Xiao Shuai's hand fell to the ground. Mu Yu shook his head. I didn't expect it to be him. The affairs of the world are truly unpredictable. That means you've already done all kinds of protective measures for him? Xiao Shuai picked up the chicken leg again, blew all the dust away, and then he began to eat. Mu Yu nodded. I used all the formations I could think of, including how to prevent him from being found by the dragon searching formation again. But in fact, he has a powerful thunder spell protecting him. This thunder spell will only be triggered when his life is in danger. If I'm not wrong, that thunder spell should be Immortal and I Lei's domain ability, Thunder Dust. Xiao Shuai asked, have you figured out the identity of Immortal and I Lei? Immortal and I Lei didn't leave any trace. He didn't want me to find him. Mu Yu had searched carefully. Except for the thunder spell, there was nothing related to Immortal and I Lei. Xiao Shuai muttered twice. He thought that Mu Yu's roasted meat was not delicious, so he went to cook by himself. Mu Yu hesitated for a moment and asked, Xiao Shuai, how much do you remember that day? What? Xiao Shuai sprinkled some cumin on the roasted meat. Have you forgotten all the images that flashed in your mind when you used the sword essence of the sky sword that day? Mu Yu asked. Oh, you mean I used the sky sword to show off that day? I don't know. You don't say. I still feel a little sad when I think of the white-bearded old man. I don't know why. Xiao Shuai stopped his work and looked at the flame from the pill-fire stone in confusion. But it doesn't matter. We will definitely save the white-bearded old man. Xiao Shuai chuckled and quickly got rid of the messy thoughts in his mind. He continued to roast the leg and sprinkled some vegetable oil on it. The vegetable oil was all thanks to Mu Yu. You're right. Mu Yu closed his eyes and continued to cultivate. Since he was entangled by the killing power, his original cultivation had risen rapidly. Now he had reached the seventh heaven of the combination realm. The killing power had been affecting his body, but after he killed the people of Dongsha City, he found that his cultivation had improved tremendously. In the face of the threefold palace, he didn't reject relying on the killing power to increase his cultivation. On the contrary, he wanted to reach the tribulation stage as soon as possible. Only then would he be able to unleash the killing power even more. Mu Yu walked in Sword Shadow City. He was on his way to the gate of hell. He had stopped by to find out more about the current situation in the cultivation world. He wanted to hear about the movements of the threefold palace and where Yuman had attacked. The rumor of the Yumeng Devil clan had already caused a stir in the cultivation world. It was said that a while ago, traces of the Fire Yumeng Devil clan were found in the northwest desert. At that time, hundreds of cultivators who went to investigate were burned to death. Now, all the cultivators were in danger. The fire near Clearwater City was quite intense. It was said that everything within a few hundred miles was burnt to a crisp. Yeah, Yuman is getting more and more rampant. We don't know what to do now. This is all Sword Shadow Qinfeng's fault. How could he nurture 5 people with Yuman's abilities as his disciples? I heard that the fire in Clearwater City was caused by Sword Shadow Qinfeng's second disciple, Luo Shang, who has the ability to control fire, who deliberately killed people. That's right. I also heard that the fire in Dongsha City was set by him. Not only that, I heard that Mu Yu is colluding with the demon race to deal with us humans. That's too much. I thought that the disciples of the true gods should lead by example and lead us humans to declare war on Yuman. Humph, Sword Shadow Qinfeng is too much. For his own selfish reasons, he actually went against the threefold heaven. He even put us in deep trouble. To think that we even named this city after him. I think we should just rename this city to Threefold City. Mu Yu sat at a tea stall and listened to the cultivators beside him in silence. The fire in the northwest desert killed hundreds of cultivators? Xiao Shuai looked at Mu Yu in shock. Mu Yu shook his head. At that time, the two of us worked together to kill the people from the Threefold Palace. I'm afraid that we were framed by another person from the Threefold Palace. Everything was planned by the Threefold Palace behind the scenes. They had to first get rid of Mu Yu and the other two unstable factors, so that the five of them would not be able to lead the human race to fight against the Threefold Palace. Don't you know? I heard that everyone is unhappy with Mu Yu and wants to force Mu Yu to show himself. Do you know the best way to force Mu Yu to show himself? I heard about this. The best way to force Mu Yu to show himself is to go to Clearwater City and find his family. That's right. As long as we capture the Mu family, we can force Mu Yu to surrender. Then we can get rid of a true God's disciple. I really hope that I can help. The heavens will not tolerate these 5 people who have Yu Meng's ability. Mu Yu's body trembled violently. The anger in his heart had reached its peak. These people dared to target his family. A dragon had a reverse scale, and anyone who touched it would die. If anything happened to his family, he did not mind slaughtering another city. Mu Yu, let me do it. Xiao Shuai gestured with his small hands. Okay. Mu Yu stood up and coldly glanced at the 3 cultivators who were still discussing how to take his life. A murderous aura flashed and disappeared. Those cultivators who were still talking with fervor and assurance suddenly felt as if they were being stared at by some strange aura. They looked around in bewilderment, only to find an innocent and cute child sitting next to them, drinking tea. They thought that they were being paranoid, so they turned around and continued drinking tea. However, at this moment, their bodies suddenly froze as they stared at the teacups in their hands. Drip, drip. There were 2 drops of scarlet blood in the clear teacup. It was a ghastly sight as it dyed the tea red. Plop. The 3 cultivators had already collapsed on the table. There were 3 bloody holes in the middle of their foreheads. Mu Yu and Xiao Shuai were already on their way to Clearwater City. Xiao Shuai transformed into his original form and stood on Mu Yu's shoulder. He squinted his eyes and looked at the flashing scenery around him. Those people were killed by Xiao Shuai. To Xiao Shuai, killing people was not a big deal. These 3 cultivators wanted to kill Mu Yu, so there was no need for Mu Yu to let them live in this world. Mu Yu had already increased his speed to the limit. He had to hurry to the Mu family. Otherwise, his family would be in trouble. Don't worry. Aren't the people from the Array faction protecting the Mu family? Not to mention the Array faction, the entire Clearwater City was under Xiang Nan's control. Xiang Nan said that he would protect the Mu family. Nothing will happen, Xiao Shuai comforted. The people who want to harm my family are not from Clearwater City. I think everyone wants to capture my family to force me to show myself. I'm afraid that many experts are already rushing to Clearwater City, Mu Yu said coldly. The cultivator's cowardly nature made Mu Yu angry. Even now, they still wanted to slander Jian Ying and Chen Feng. They even wanted to threaten his family. Mu Yu did not want to be a good guy anymore. If anyone wanted to harm the people he cared about, he would kill them. Half a month ago, he had just come out of the desert. He did not expect to set foot on this desert again. His speed was very fast. In a flash, he disappeared into the desert. The scorching desert could not slow him down. For the sake of speed, he even forcefully increased his cultivation. The silhouette of Clearwater City quickly appeared in front of him. He entered the city directly. From afar, he could see the huge mansion in Clearwater City. However, his expression changed. This was because he felt that there was an extremely powerful aura hidden in the Mu family residence. Whoosh! Mu Yu's figure had already landed in the courtyard of the Mu family residence. His murderous aura instantly covered the entire courtyard. His anger had spread throughout his body. If his family members were injured, Mu Yu would definitely not let them off. What's going on? Many people rushed out in fear. When they saw Mu Yu's figure, they did not dare to take a step closer. That murderous aura made them extremely shocked. Where's my family? Mu Yu's voice was extremely cold. Mu Yu? Is it really you? A familiar voice came from the main hall of the Mu family residence. Mu Tianhe looked at his grandson in surprise. However, when he saw Mu Yu's aura, he immediately stopped in his tracks and did not dare to take a step closer. Grandfather, are you all right? Where are the others? Mu Yu came to Mu Tianhe's side in an instant. As he looked around, his murderous aura did not decrease. Mu Tianhe looked at the unfamiliar grandson in front of him. Mu Yu's murderous aura made him feel as if he had fallen into an ice cellar. He asked fearfully, "You, how did you become like this?" Little Shuai reached out and patted Mu Tianhe's shoulder so that Mu Tianhe would not be affected by Mu Yu's murderous aura. Grandfather, where are the others? Mu Yu did not retract his murderous aura. That powerful aura was still faintly discernible, which made him feel a sense of danger. Big brother Mu Yu. A cheerful voice sounded. Following that, a small figure had already jumped into Mu Yu's embrace. It was as if she did not care about Mu Yu's murderous aura at all. Mu Xian. Mu Yu's heart skipped a beat. The murderous aura on his body suddenly weakened. He tried to calm himself down. Big brother Mu Yu, are you not leaving this time? Mu Xian held Mu Yu's hand and asked happily. Following that, Mu Zixing, Mu Rongshuan, and the others also rushed over. They all frowned when they saw the murderous aura on Mu Yu's body. Clearly, this was completely different from the gentle and childish Mu Yu from before. Mu Zixing walked to Mu Yu's side and asked hesitantly, "Mu Yu, what happened to you?" He had felt an uncontrollable murderous aura from afar. He thought that a powerful enemy had invaded the Mu clan and hurried over to check on the situation. However, he found that it was his son. "Are you all right?" Mu Yu's murderous aura weakened again. Little Shuai touched Mu Yu's ear. Only then did Mu Yu's murderous aura gradually disappear. "I'm sorry. I thought that someone was going to harm our Mu clan." Mu Yu avoided the doubtful gazes of the Mu family members. Now, he didn't want to face his family members because he didn't want them to see his murderous look. He didn't like the current him and didn't want his family members to worry about him. Mu Yu used the demonic energy that the White Ape Demon King left on his shoulder to cover up his murderous aura. Then he continued to ask, "I feel a powerful aura here. Is someone threatening you?" Mu Tianhe and the others breathed a sigh of relief when they saw that Mu Yu had restrained his aura. He said, "A few days ago, there were indeed a lot of foreign self-cultivators clamoring to suppress our Mu mansion. But fortunately you drove them all away." "In-law?" Mu Yu raised his eyebrows. "Oh my good son-in-law. Can't you recognize my aura? Come in and let me see if you've grown taller in the past few days." The White Ape Demon King's lazy voice slowly came from the hall. Mu Yu's heart finally relaxed. He had forgotten that the White Ape Demon King was in Clearwater City. However, Mu Yu's heart was once again filled with anger. "In-law?" Chapter 866. Walking into the Mu family's hall, he saw the White Ape Demon King sitting leisurely on a chair. His face was filled with ridicule as he looked at Mu Yu. "My good son-in-law, you're back. I was having a good chat with old man Mu," the White Ape Demon King said maliciously. Mu Yu was not in the mood to joke with the White Ape Demon King, so he asked, "Are you talking nonsense with my family again?" The White Ape Demon King was not serious and shameless. Mu Yu knew this. Now that he was haunted by the power of slaughter, his temperament had changed a lot. He did not want his family to know what had happened to him. Mu Tianhe walked over. He had already forgotten about Mu Yu's killing intent. He said happily, "Mu Yu, you already have a wife. Why didn't you tell us?" If it weren't for the timely arrival of our in-laws, we would have been in danger that day. What happened that day? Mu Yu immediately asked. Mu Tianhe and Mu Zhixing looked at each other. Thinking back to that day, they still had lingering fears. Obviously, something big had almost happened. Mu Zhixing said, "It was 8 days ago. A large group of powerful self-cultivators suddenly came to Clearwater City. The strongest among them was in the form synthesis stage. These people collectively denounced us, saying that you were in cahoots with Yuman. I don't know how the news got around, but if Mr. Bai hadn't arrived, I'm afraid our Mu family would have been in deep trouble." The strongest person in the Mu family now was Mu Zhixing, who was in the out-of-body stage. He was helpless against cultivators in the form synthesis stage. They deserved to die. Mu Yu shouted in a low voice. His cold, killing intent swept out again, making Mu Tianhe and Mu Zhixing tremble. In the eyes of Mu Tianhe and Mu Zhixing, the Mu Yu in front of them was like a completely different person. He was a far cry from the sensible and easygoing child they used to know. "Mu Yu, you're Mu Yu, right?" Mu Tianhe asked cautiously. In the past, Mu Yu would not have such a terrifying murderous aura. Even when they first met, Mu Yu, who should have been furious, chose to laugh it off. But now, Mu Yu's murderous aura was too strong. Mu Yu took a deep breath and tried to suppress his killing intent. He forced a smile and said, "Grandpa, I'm fine. I'm sorry to have implicated you." Mu Tianhe waved his hand and said with a smile, "What are you saying? Even if the cultivation world is your enemy, we will still support you, because I know you are a person who knows when to stop and when to stop. In this aspect, even Grandpa can't compare with you." Mu Yu's icy heart began to warm up. During this period of time, the power of slaughter had gradually eroded his mind. The tragic scene of Eastern Sand City kept appearing in his mind, and he couldn't get it out of his mind. He had almost forgotten that he still had a home. "Grandpa, Mu Yu didn't know what to say. Was he supposed to tell his family that he had slaughtered a city and killed 100,000 people? It's fine. You don't have to explain to Grandpa. Grandpa doesn't believe a single word of the rumors outside. If you were such a person, our Mu clan would have ceased to exist long ago. There must be someone who is jealous of your talent and wants to frame you. This isn't the first time. Didn't someone say that you were in cahoots with the demon race's White Ape Demon King? In the end, nothing happened, right?" Mu Tianhe said amiably. The White Ape Demon King couldn't sit still. He immediately wanted to refute, but Mu Yu coldly glanced at him, warning him not to talk nonsense. The White Ape Demon King spread out his hands and said, "Old Master Mu, the White Ape Demon King is actually a mighty, tall, handsome, and elegant senior. He is Mu Yu's first teacher. They are also good brothers who went through the hell on earth together. You have to believe in your grandson. Birds of a feather flock together. Your grandson has the same kind of friends as he is. Don't believe in rumors." The White Ape Demon King proudly looked at Mu Yu, taking advantage of him. When he talked about the hell on earth, he deliberately put on a noble appearance. Mu Yu was reminded of his past self by the White Ape Demon King. He couldn't wait to scold this shameless old monkey. Yes. Grandpa is right. Speaking of which, Mu Yu, everyone is saying that Xiao Shui is your junior sister? Then she must be the disciple of a true god. Grandpa said that he is a good friend of a true god. Then they are really well matched. It's a pity that Grandpa hasn't seen his granddaughter-in-law yet. Mu Tianhe seemed to be very satisfied with this marriage. "Big brother Mu Yu, I also want to see my sister-in-law." Mu Xian happily held Mu Yu's hand and said. Mu Yu's hand was very warm. This was because he used his spiritual power to force his hand to not be so cold. He didn't want Mu Xian to get frostbite. Mu Yu nodded and said, "Yes, I was rude about this. When this matter is resolved, I will bring her back." Mu Zhixing looked at Mu Yu from the side. He looked a little hesitant, as if he wanted to say something, But in the end, he didn't say anything. The White Ape Demon King said, "Oh, Grandpa Moo, don't worry. Xiao Shui is cultivating with her mother. That's why she didn't come out this time. In the future, I will definitely bring her to meet her future in-laws. I can't be like someone who was rude and didn't even call him father-in-law." The White Ape Demon King glanced at Mu Yu and spoke with a sneaky tone. "Mu Yu, that's where you're wrong. Grandpa said that he wouldn't interfere with your marriage, but now that you are the one making the decision, it is only right that you call him father-in-law. Do you understand?" Mu Tian has said. Mu Yu's head was full of the urge to beat up the White Ape Demon King. He unconsciously suppressed his murderous aura. He said, "Grandpa, I have something to talk to him about alone. We can talk about other things later." Mu Yu pretended to inadvertently glare at the White Ape Demon King, motioning for him to follow. He left first. "My son-in-law is so shy. He is shy with me, and he is shy with his own family. This child's temperament really needs to change." The White Ape Demon King shook his head and stood up. "Mr. White, please don't worry. Mu Yu's shyness is probably from his mother. He will slowly get used to it," Mu Zhixing said. He always felt that there was something wrong with Mu Yu, but he couldn't put his finger on it. He could only put in a few good words for this strange son of his. "Don't be so formal. Call me father-in-law," the White Ape Demon King said. Mu Zhixing smiled awkwardly and didn't say anything. Mu Yu was already waiting for the White Ape Demon King in his original courtyard. After a while, the White Ape Demon King swaggered in. "What does my good son-in-law want to talk to your father-in-law?" The White Ape Demon King walked to the stone chair in the courtyard and sat down. Mu Yu looked at the White Ape Demon King coldly, then said solemnly to the White Ape Demon King, "Thank you." The White Ape Demon King rubbed his chin. "Is this gratitude sincere? Is it the same as the gratitude you gave a while ago?" Mu Yu snorted. "Did you tell my family what happened to me?" Mu Yu asked. The White Ape Demon King looked at Mu Yu and asked, "What do you want them to know?" "I don't want them to know anything." Mu Yu's tone was heavy. The White Ape Demon King spread his hands. "I haven't said anything yet, but it depends on your attitude later." The White Ape Demon King crossed his legs again, as if waiting for Mu Yu's response. But Mu Yu just looked at him coldly. After waiting for a long time, the White Ape Demon King shouted, "Hey! At this time, your line should be angrily asking, 'Are you threatening me?' Say it. Say it." The White Ape Demon King was waiting for Mu Yu to say so, and then he would confidently and coldly answer yes. "I am threatening you." Last time, he was choked by Mu Yu in front of the seal of the Gerfalcon. He was very unhappy, and now he wanted to get back at him. He wanted to reverse the roles and fight back. But Mu Yu still looked at him coldly. After waiting for a long time, the White Ape Demon King lost his patience. "You bastard! You've become so cold that I can't stand it. I'd rather you exchange insults with me." The White Ape Demon King gnashed his teeth in anger. But Mu Yu still looked at him indifferently. The White Ape Demon King rolled his eyes. He had lived for thousands of years, but he still couldn't take advantage of a junior. It made him angry. "What a bastard! Why did you go and do something about the power of slaughter? You've lost your sense of humor." "Forget it, I'll get straight to the point. I'm staying in Clearwater City because of my brother, the Gerfalcon. The Sanchong Palace intends to start condemning the 5 of you, which means that your family will become a burden to you. So, let's make a deal." The White Ape Demon King didn't want to talk nonsense anymore. "What deal?" Mu Yu asked. "It's simple. I can help you deal with those who come looking for trouble with your family. But in return, you have to bring me the heart of the Gerfalcon within 3 months. Otherwise, what happens to your family after 3 months is none of my business." In the past, he had always been angered by Mu Yu. Even if he wanted to threaten Mu Yu would easily resolve it. He was always led by the nose by Mu Yu. The last time Mu Yu went to look for the heart of the gerfalcon, he didn't give the White Ape Demon King a clear answer. This made the White Ape Demon King very unhappy. This time, the White Ape Demon King finally had the upper hand. Mu Yu knew that he had a lot of things to do. He couldn't stay in Clearwater City forever. His family would become a burden to him. Once he was gone, the Sanchong Palace would most likely capture them to threaten him. The only person who could help now was the White Ape Demon King. Okay, I promise you. But you have to be polite to my family. Don't tell them the truth, Mu Yu said. The White Ape Demon King chuckled. Don't worry. I'm your father-in-law now. I have a good chat with your grandfather. Anyway, I have to look after the seal of the gerfalcon, so I'll stay with your family for the time being. Your grandfather is a hospitable person. In the future, keep in touch with your grandfather and establish a good position for my daughter. Don't put on airs in front of my family and don't threaten them, Mu Yu warned. I won't, I'm a forthright in-law. It's not my style to bully people with power. I like to win people over with virtue. The White Ape Demon King smiled slyly. Win people over with shamelessness? Xiao Shui asked. What does it have to do with you? You talk too much. The White Ape Demon King looked at Xiao Shui and recalled the time when he brought Xiao Shui to the Demon Clan's willow brothel to eat their food. Then, he said maliciously, Little guy, I found a place in Clearwater City called Yihong Brothel. Their roasted suckling pig is delicious. Really? Xiao Shui nodded happily. Don't go. Chapter 867. Returning to the Mu clan, Mu Yu felt very uncomfortable. It was as if he didn't fit in with the Mu clan. Ever since the power of slaughter had gradually changed his personality, it was difficult for him to face his family. He didn't have deep feelings for this place because he didn't grow up here, but he still didn't want to involve the Mu clan in his matters. In the eyes of the Mu clan, Mu Yu was an easygoing person who did things in an orderly manner. He was also a little childish and liked to bicker with Mu Hao. But after coming back this time, no matter how much Mu Yu tried to hide it, he couldn't return to his previous state. Everyone knew that something unexpected had happened to Mu Yu. Mu Tianhe believed in Mu Yu, so he secretly told everyone not to ask about it. But Mu Xian was different. As soon as she came back, she kept pestering Mu Yu. She and Mu Hao both liked their big brother Mu Yu, and treated Mu Yu as a great hero of the human race. Every time Mu Xian said the words, Big Brother Mu Yu, it was like a ray of sunshine in the abyss to Mu Yu, giving him warmth. But when Mu Xian mentioned the word, Great Hero, again, Mu Yu suddenly became afraid of the word, Great Hero. A great hero wouldn't slaughter the 100,000 people in Dongsha City. When Mu Yu was cultivating, he would often think of the 100,000 people who died in front of him. They died under his Mu Ling. Although he knew that these people deserved to die, Mu Yu couldn't let it go. In order to avenge the righteous people, he was covered in blood. It was hard to say who was the devil. Big Brother Mu Yu, did you encounter a lot of fun outside? Can you tell me about it? After not seeing her for 2 years, Mu Xian had grown a lot, but she was still so pure. Looking at Mu Xian's big watery eyes, even the cold Mu Yu couldn't help but melt his cold heart. Outside? Things outside are not fun. Mu Yu shook her head slightly. Cultivators are full of intrigue and deceit everywhere. Only after they are used to wandering outside will they find a place to call home. Where there are people you care about, that's where life is. The last time Big Brother Mu Yu came back, he said that the array faction has many powerful array formations, and he also showed me many array techniques, but I still think that Big Brother Mu Yu is more powerful. Mu Xian pulled Mu Yu's hand. Mu Yu smiled, but it was still a forced smile. It seemed that he had forgotten how to smile recently. Big Brother Mu Yu, you have to be happy. Father said that Big Brother Mu Yu's world isn't in Clearwater City. I don't really understand what he means. However, I've already told my father that I'll be leaving Clearwater City in the future to play with Big Brother Muyu. Is that alright? Mu Xian said earnestly. Muyu patted Mu Xian's head and said, You have to wait for little Xian to grow up, understand? Okay, that's a promise. When I grow up, Big Brother Muyu will take me out to play. Mu Xian stretched out her pinky. Let's pinky promise. Pinky promise? Muyu stared blankly at Mu Xian's pinky. For a moment, he felt that this action was so childish. When he was young, he would do this action with other children. However, now that he had grown up, he could destroy a piece of land or a mountain with a wave of his hand. Mu Xian's action was so laughable in his eyes. He suddenly realized that when he first left Luochen Mountain, he was also very naive. He always imagined the world to be beautiful, and he felt that every cultivator's life was worth cherishing. Everyone should have a reason to live, and no one should take away another's life. However, now that he thought about it, weren't those ideas of his as childish and laughable as the so-called pinky promise? Turned out that everyone would grow up. When they got used to the right and wrong of the cultivation world, they could no longer maintain their original intentions. Let's pinky promise. Muyu awkwardly stretched out his finger and hooked it with Mu Xian's pinky. It was a very childish action, but it made Muyu feel very melancholy. What does it mean to grow up? Muyu asked himself. When he first left Luochen Mountain, he was still so ignorant. He thought that he would follow in his master's footsteps, protect the human race, fight against Yumeng, and fight for the cultivation world's future. But now, he felt tired. He smelled the ugly side of humanity. He was completely disappointed in the cultivation world. The destruction of more than 100,000 people in Dongsha City had always been torturous for him. That day, he knelt in front of his master's statue and said that being a good person was too tiring. He wanted to be a bad person. However, a bad person shouldn't feel guilty about the destruction of Dongsha City's cultivation world. He thought back to that day in the Great Fire. Were there children as naive as Mu Xian, who were full of hope for the future and couldn't wait to see the world and see tomorrow? However, they never had the chance again. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. Muyu clenched his fist. His heart was filled with panic. He hoped that there weren't any lively and naive children like Mu Xian in Dongsha City that day. Those children didn't dare to stand up because their families didn't let them. They didn't know anything. Muyu's heart was trembling. He couldn't lie to himself. He could live with a clear conscience as a bad person, but he still wasn't a qualified bad person. Mu Xian asked curiously, Big Brother Muyu, why are you apologizing? You didn't do anything wrong to little Xian. Muyu was in a bad mood. After a long time, he asked softly, Little Xian, what kind of person do you think Big Brother Muyu is? Mu Xian rubbed the back of her head and blinked her big eyes. Big Brother Muyu is very powerful. He punishes evil and eliminates evil. He's also the disciple of a true god. He's a great hero who protects the world. Big Brother Mu how often tells me that. Muyu's chest heaved up and down. He thought of that silly boy who blindly worshipped him and often talked about how great the disciple of a true god was in front of him. At that time, Muyu was just Feng Mu. He didn't reveal his identity. He just happily listened to Muyu praise Muyu as a great hero. But the great hero in Mu Hao's eyes was no longer the same as before. Little Hao, how is he? Muyu asked bitterly. Mu Xian nodded. Big Brother Little Hao is very good. He said that the people of the Array faction are very good to him. He also secretly said that you're really an amazing Big Brother. You know everything. You're also a genius of the Array faction. He's now looking at you as a goal to surpass. But he told me again and again not to tell you this. Otherwise, if you knew that he was still praising you, he would feel very embarrassed. Because he said that he wouldn't worship you anymore. He didn't want you to be too proud. I spilled the beans. Mu Xian covered her little mouth in embarrassment. That silly boy. Did he really say that? The corners of Mu Yu's mouth involuntarily rose, but he panicked in his heart. If Mu Hao knew that he was now a different person, what would happen? Would Mu Hao still worship him? If Mu Hao was no longer proud of him, was that something he wanted to see? Mu Yu felt inexplicably disappointed. For some reason, he suddenly cared a lot about Mu Hao's opinion. Because in Mu Hao's eyes, Big Brother Mu Yu was a great hero, but he wasn't. Steady footsteps sounded in the courtyard. Mu Zhixing had already walked over. He bent down and patted Mu Xian's head. He said gently, "Little Xian, go play for a while. Fourth uncle and Mu Yu have a few words, okay?" "Okay, fourth uncle." Mu Xian skipped out. Mu Yu looked up at his biological father. He didn't have much interaction with this man, nor did he have any deep feelings for him. They looked at each other as if they were strangers. Mu Zhixing smiled and said, "You seem to have changed a lot." Mu Yu's lips moved. He didn't know how to answer. Mu Zhixing sat down next to Mu Yu. He seemed a little restrained. It was as if they were strangers and didn't have much to say to each other. To Mu Zhixing, he didn't know what his son was doing, what had happened, and what responsibilities he had shouldered. As a father, he couldn't help in any way. Mu Zhixing thought for a moment and said, "What kind of person is she?" Mu Yu looked at Mu Zhixing. "You found the girl you love, but you never told us." Mu Zhixing smiled. Mu Yu came to his senses. He had forgotten that he had never told his family about Qiao Shui and Tian Ran. Mu Zhixing smiled and said, "Your mother said that she wouldn't arrange any marriage for you in the future. She wanted you to pursue the girl you love yourself. So no matter what kind of girl you find, I won't dislike her. But I think that if I meet my daughter-in-law one day, I can at least know something about her, right? Mr. Bai has been talking a lot about the two of you these days." Mu Yu thought of the White Ape Demon King's shameless personality and was worried that he would talk nonsense again. He asked, "What did he say?" "Nothing much. He just said that the two of you are a perfect match. He is very satisfied with you. Old hairy monkey. That's what Mr. Bai said?" Mu Yu was very surprised. He had always thought that the White Ape Demon King would complain about him to his face. In the past, whenever Mu Yu and the White Ape Demon King met, the White Ape Demon King would never say anything nice. The White Ape Demon King even despised him to death. He did not expect that the White Ape Demon King would say something different in front of Mu Yu's family. Yes, Mr. Bai said that he was very relieved to leave his daughter in your care. He also said that he wanted to let the two of you get married, but you said that we weren't around and strongly disagreed. Mr. Bai is a very straightforward person. He is a very good person, Mu Zhixing said. Mu Yu's heart skipped a beat. It turned out that the White Ape Demon King had a rare normal side to him. He was actually speaking good words for him in front of his family. Mr. Bai, his identity is not simple, is it? Mu Zhixing asked meaningfully. Mu Yu was stunned. Why do you think so? I think he's the White Ape Demon King, isn't he? Mu Zhixing looked at his son calmly. Chapter 868. Mu Zhixing laughed. A few days ago, so many people came to attack us. It was Mr. Bai who chased them away. The old man saw Mr. Bai as his savior. Later, Mr. Bai introduced himself as a friend of the true God, and also your father-in-law. Because many of his words were true, and his strength was unfathomable, the old man was very happy and didn't suspect anything. Mu Zhixing paused, and there was a slight fluctuation in his calm eyes. But I didn't let my guard down. I've always been wary of this Mr. Bai. I thought he had a purpose for coming to our house. Fortunately, you're back, so I'm relieved. Mr. Bai's background is unknown. Although he's been deliberately suppressing his aura so that we don't feel pressured, His words and actions inadvertently reveal a domineering aura. I can see that he must have been a powerful figure in the past. Mu Zixing laughed. His cultivation is so high that he could easily beat a group of body integration stage self-cultivators. He even showed us goodwill. Thinking back to the rumor that you let the White Ape Demon King go, I deduced Mr. Bai's true identity. Mu Yu was silent. So Mu Zixing was a meticulous person with a unique vision. He realized that he never really understood his biological father. Mu Zixing had always been drunk and seemed mediocre. Now it seemed that Mu Yu had been prejudiced by first impressions. If Mu Zixing was really mediocre, why would Mu Tianhe be so angry at him for marrying a mediocre woman? He is the White Ape Demon King, Mu Yu admitted. Then he said, but he won't harm the Mu family. I know. If someone like him wants to harm the Mu family, none of us can stop him, Mu Zixing said with a smile. As the head of the family, Mu Tianhe needed to make friends with powerful people to protect his family. So when the White Ape Demon King showed goodwill to him, he didn't refuse. In addition, the White Ape Demon King had explained a lot of things about Mu Yu very clearly. In fact, he knew Mu Yu better than they did. Therefore, they believed in the White Ape Demon King and called him in-laws very cordially. However, Mu Zixing only addressed the White Ape Demon King as Mr. White. He did not try to curry favor with the White Ape Demon King. This was because he had to make sure if his son acknowledged him as his father-in-law. Otherwise, if his son did not like this marriage and he directly addressed the White Ape Demon King as his son-in-law, wouldn't that make things difficult for his son? Do you think he's suitable to be your father-in-law? Jupiter Star asked. The White Ape Demon King can be trusted. Mu Yu did not answer directly. I understand. Mu Zixing nodded. Mu Yu was silent for a moment, then asked again, aren't you going to ask me what happened recently? Don't you want to know why everyone in the cultivation world is attacking me and why I have become like this? Jupiter Star shook his head. 2 years ago, when I was falling into depravity, you were the one who woke me up. The way you handled things surprised me. At that time, I knew you would not do anything wrong. Therefore, I will not ask you why you have become like this, because I have always trusted you. No matter what you do, you have your reasons. You trust me, Mu Yu clenched his fists. His mind flashed back to the 100,000 massacred residents of Dongsha City. The tragic scene of those self-cultivators dying at his hands. In order to avenge Xian Jingtang's family and the old city lord, he had chosen to destroy the city with his own hands. Even if those people deserved to die, many of them were innocent children like Mu Xian. They did not have the ability to make independent decisions and lost their lives just like that. He had done such a terrible thing, but Jupiter's Star only comforted him by saying that he trusted him? Mu Yu felt extremely agitated again. He blurted out, but the person you trusted slaughtered the entire Dongsha city. Do you still trust him? He panted. Telling the truth made him feel a lot better, but it also made him more flustered. He did not dare to look at Jupiter's Star. There was a long silence. Aren't you shocked? Mu Yu lowered his head and asked. I am shocked, but I still trust you, said Jupiter's Star. Why? Mu Yu demanded. He could not accept this answer. This inexplicable trust only made him feel irritated. Jupiter's Star asked calmly, why did you kill them? Because they deserved to die. Mu Yu said angrily. Then why can't you let it go? If they have a reason to die, they will die. Isn't that right? Said Jupiter's Star. But many mortals in Dongsha City are innocent. Mu Yu could not lie to himself. If you had not appeared in Dongsha City, what would have happened to it? Asked Jupiter's Star. Mu Yu was silent for a long time. Then he said, Dongsha City would have been destroyed by Yuman. So whether or not you appeared in Dongsha City, it would have been destroyed. Is that right? Jupiter's Star looked at Mu Yu. Mu Yu gritted his teeth. Yes. According to the news outside, There were more than 100 survivors in Dongsha City. They were rescued by someone using a teleportation array. Were you the one who saved them? Asked Jupiter Star. Muyu nodded again. Yes. So Dongsha City was destined to be destroyed. You also saved more than 100 people. Why do you feel guilty? Because most of the self-cultivators in Dongsha City were killed by me. You said they deserved to die, so they must die. So you had nothing to worry about killing these self-cultivators. You only feel guilty about the mortals. But these mortals' fates were already destined. It has nothing to do with you, said Jupiter Star. I could have saved them. You already saved them. You only worry about whether or not you did anything wrong. What others think of you. You wonder what kind of person you are. But at least I know one thing. A man should live for himself, not for others. It's too tiring to live in the eyes of others and to cater to others, Jupiter Star said. Jupiter Star wanted to live for himself. So when he faced Zhu Xiaoqi, he chose to die without hesitation. He hoped that Muyu would understand this as well. A person should live for himself. Muyu repeated this in his heart. Jupiter Star's words were like a lamp in the darkness. He couldn't let go of the lives of the 100,000 people in Dongsha City. He suffered because of their death. He suffered because he felt that he had let down his master and those who wanted him to save the world of self-cultivators. Just like how Mu Xian and Mu Hao still treated him like a hero. He was afraid that he couldn't be a good brother. He felt that he had let his master down. But now that he thought about it, it was just as Luo Shang had said. How could his master blame him? Their master had always told them that no matter what they did, as long as they didn't let themselves down, they should do it. He said that he didn't want to be a good person, but a bad person. But good people and bad people were judged by others. Since he wanted to live for himself, what did it matter what kind of person he was? I understand. The coldness in Mu Yu's eyes gradually faded. They seemed to glow again. He looked up at Jupiter Star. Jupiter Star was looking back at him. Can you talk to me about Xiao Shui? Jupiter Star changed the topic. Mu Yu calmed down when he thought of Xiao Shui. He remembered that no one in the Mu family knew anything about her. Xiao Shui is an understanding girl. She's gentle, kind, principled, and polite. She's nice to everyone. I'm very happy to be with her. The corners of Mu Yu's mouth curled into a smile. Jupiter Star sighed. Your mother is like that too. I'm sure she'll be very happy to know. When Mu Yu thought of his mother, he felt uncomfortable. He had never seen his mother before. How did you meet Xiao Shui? Jupiter Star continued asking. We met by chance in the second heaven. We met Tu Yumeng. We helped each other escape from Tu Yumeng's pursuit. Later, I found out that she went to the second heaven to save the White Ape Demon King. For some reason, I couldn't let her be framed by the people from the gate of hell. So, I helped her and the White Ape Demon King escape the second heaven. After that, she gradually fell in love with me. Mu Yu gave a simple explanation of what had happened. He could only tell Jupiter Star what he had deduced. Mu Yu didn't mention that Xiao Shui could control water and he could control wood. But sometimes I can't understand her personality. I always feel that girls are very complicated. I don't know what they're thinking. Mu Yu thought of how Xiao Shui would sometimes choke him for no reason. She wouldn't let him cultivate near her, and sometimes she would want to cultivate with him. It was strange. He could deduce the complicated 8 trigrams formation in his mind. His way of thinking was better than most people, but he couldn't figure out what a girl was thinking. Mu Zhixing nodded thoughtfully and then smiled. Although I can't teach you other principles because you already know them, but I can teach you how to deal with a girl. After all, I cheated to get together with your mother. I have experience in this. Mu Yu couldn't help but laugh. He had heard Mu Zhixing talk about how he met Mu Yu's mother before. Girls are actually very easy to get along with. They have their own temperaments and can change at will. But no matter how they change, it has nothing to do with you. Jupiter's star began to talk. He told Mu what to do if he made a girl angry, what girls liked to do, and what they wanted men to do to make them feel safe. Perhaps it was to remember his dead wife, but Jupiter's star told Mu everything about his relationship with his wife. Mu realized that Jupiter's star was not only a meticulous person, but also a man who knew how to please girls. He was much more mature than Mu when it came to relationship. Mu listened carefully to Jupiter's star's life experiences. He kept smiling. As he smiled, the haze in his heart didn't seem so important anymore. It quickly dissipated, and his anger lessened. But I also like another girl, Mu said softly. Jupiter's star was stunned. He asked, "So you don't know who to choose?" Mu shook his head. "It's hard for me to say who I like more between the two of them, especially when they both like me." He first met Tianran, and it was Tianran's pure personality that moved him. Mu's personality was also very simple at that time. He was optimistic and full of vigor, and was curious about everything. He didn't have any scruples when he was with the pure Tianran. He could joke about anything he wanted. Both of them were very ignorant about things like love. But with Xiao Shui, it was more of a misunderstanding. Mu even suspected that it was because of Gomang and Xian Ming's relationship that he and Xiao Shui were attracted to each other. It was also because of this that they could cultivate together. "If it were you, what would you choose?" Mu asked. Jupiter's star thought for a moment and smiled. "Being liked by two girls is a very lucky thing. You don't have to think too much about it. We'll cross that bridge when we come to it. When you find yourself again one day, you'll know what to choose." Mu asked curiously, "Did my mother ask you about this?" Jupiter's star smiled and nodded. "Your mother said that if someone else liked her husband, it showed that her husband was capable. It also showed that her taste was right. At least she didn't marry the wrong person." "She's that open-minded? She can tolerate you liking two people?" Mu was shocked. He couldn't wait to know more about his mother. "Yes, she's very open-minded. She's a beautiful and intelligent person," Jupiter's star said with certainty. "If she hadn't threatened to break my legs if I didn't flirt with other girls, this would have been perfect." Haha! Both Mu and Mu Zhixing burst into laughter. The laughter spread out of the yard and into the sky. The white cloud in the sky seemed to transform into Zhu Xiaoqi, looking at the unfamiliar father and son in the yard. Life seemed to have become very simple at that moment. After a long time, Mu discovered that the depressed mood he had been in for the past few days seemed to have vanished. He had forgotten the nightmares in Eastern Sand City, forgotten the guilt in his heart, and felt as if he had found his old self once more. "She's not that kind of person, right?" Mu smiled. He couldn't imagine his mother in his mind. "Yes, she can't bear to see me hurt, so I don't think she'll break my legs." "I think that's what you're talking about." Jupiter's star looked at the sky as if he was looking at his dead wife. Just like how Jupiter's star hadn't liked another girl for so many years, Zhu Xiaoqi trusted Jupiter's star very much. "You still have a long way to go. If you have someone you like, cherish her. She can't bear to see you hurt." Jupiter's star hesitated for a moment and then reached out to pat Mu's shoulder. Chapter 869. The power of killing was still affecting Mu, but ever since he figured out some things, he wasn't as depressed as he was a few days ago. His mood suddenly became cheerful. Mu Zhixing's words made him feel like himself again. He realized that being himself was a very pleasant thing. Mu Xian ran to Mu whenever she had time. She pestered Mu to tell her stories, and everyone in the Mu family cared about him. When the chill of killing was still lingering around him, the care of his family made him feel like his old self. It was like the frost had been peeled off and he was reborn. He didn't know how long this feeling would last, but he didn't want to think about the future. He wanted to cherish this short time. After resting for 4 or 5 days, Mu Yu pulled little Shuai out of the kitchen. He planned to leave the Mu family to do his own things. Mu Tianhe and the others were reluctant to leave. They thought Mu Yu would stay for a while, but Mu Yu was always wandering around. He never had a place to stay. He had a lot of things to do, and he couldn't delay any longer. Good son-in-law, you're leaving without saying goodbye to your father-in-law? What should you call me now? White Ape Demon King said lazily. He was now living in the Mu family. Although he was a little shameless, at least he didn't have to worry about the lives of the Mu family. Mu Yu's eyes twitched. He suddenly wanted to scold this shameless old monkey for always wanting Mu Yu to call him father-in-law. Then he remembered this scene. It was a familiar scene. The old man had forced Deadwood Daddy to call him father-in-law in front of everyone. Why was this happening to him now? But Mu Yu wasn't someone who was willing to be taken advantage of. He smiled and said, "Mr. White, I'm counting on you for the next few days." After saying that, Mu Yu wanted to run away. However, the White Ape Demon King suddenly used his aura to hold Mu Yu back, preventing Mu Yu from escaping. "Hey, why are you being so polite?" "What, Mr. White? I've talked to your father and grandfather, and we've all agreed to this marriage. Isn't it time for you to change your mind?" The White Ape Demon King said maliciously. "It's just a title. We're all on the same side. Why do you care so much about it? Don't you agree, Mr. White?" Mu Yu wanted to punch the White Ape Demon King in the face. However, Mu Tianhe said, "Mu Yu, addressing someone is very important. Once you change your way of addressing someone, this matter will be settled. My in-law is also a forthright person. It's right for you to change the way you address him." Mu Yu didn't know whether to laugh or cry at the mention of a sore spot. "Mr. Bai, if you delay me for 15 minutes, someone will have to stay on the altar for a while longer. It's not good for you to still be in the mood to joke around," Mu Yu said through gritted teeth. The White Ape Demon King shook his head and said, "It doesn't matter. He has been here for so many years anyway. It doesn't matter if you say 2 words. Mu Yu said in a voice that no one else could hear, "Let go of me. Are you trying to embarrass me on purpose? I'll let go if you call me father-in-law. What can you do if I don't call you that? Are we going to be stuck here forever? Or are you going to make the decision for Qiao Shui and ruin this marriage?" Mu Yu scolded. "You." The White Ape Demon King choked and was a little annoyed. If he could make the decision for Qiao Shui, he would definitely object to this marriage. "Just you wait. I'll make you say it one day. What's with the wedding ceremony? If you don't have proper etiquette, don't even think about consummating your marriage." The White Ape Demon King seemed to have realized that this was indeed the case. However, when he thought about the wedding ceremony in the future, there would still be opportunities. "We've already cultivated together. One night of consummation doesn't matter." "You!" Mu Yu smiled at everyone before leaping into the sky and leaving Clearwater City. Mu Yu's next step was to look for Luo Shang and Xiang Nan. Luo Shang said that Xiang Nan was near the Gate of Hell, so he had to make a trip to the Gate of Hell. Mu Yu found the Gate of Hell very easily this time. However, he didn't force his way in and only stopped nearby. Mu Yu channeled his spiritual energy into the heart flame left behind by Luo Shang. Luo Shang once said that when the heart flame was burned by spiritual energy, he would sense it. If Luo Shang was nearby, the heart flame would fly over by itself. However, the heart flame didn't have any reaction and didn't move at all. "Luo Shang isn't here?" Mu Yu fell into deep thought. He looked at the array formation outside the Gate of Hell and the people coming in and out of the Gate of Hell from time to time. He was filled with disgust towards the Gate of Hell. The existence of this sect was practically a disaster for the cultivation world. It should be destroyed. Mu Yu circled around the Gate of Hell, but the heart flame left behind by Luo Shang still didn't have any reaction. Luo Shang didn't seem to be nearby. What should we do now? Without any trace of Luo Shang, What else can we do? Little Shuai sat on Mu Yu's shoulder and asked while eating an apple. Mu Yu's eyes revealed a strong murderous intent as he said, I really want to destroy the gate of hell. With just the two of us? Little Shuai thought about it curiously before continuing, but Mu Yu, have you forgotten? Ghost Lord from the gate of hell is probably about to reach the great vehicle stage, right? Can we beat him? This was indeed a problem. 34 years ago, Ghost Lord was just a master at the crossing calamity stage. However, 34 years later, Ghost Lord returned with a ghost flag that could exert the power of a domain to help Ghost Lord. This allowed Ghost Lord to almost catch Deadwood Daddy, who was injured by soul returning to the heart. Since Ghost Lord returned from now, it meant that Ghost Lord's cultivation must have reached the great vehicle stage. In this way, it seemed that Mu Yu couldn't destroy the gate of hell. Let's find Luo Shang first. If we want to destroy the gate of hell, it's not enough to rely on my strength alone. Mu Yu pondered for a moment and said, his real cultivation was only at the unification stage. Although he had the power of slaughter, he still had no way to face Ghost Lord, who was at the great vehicle stage. As a last resort, Mu Yu could only leave the gate of hell. He found a barren place near the gate of hell and set up a simple dragon searching array. Because Luo Shang left the heart flame to Mu Yu could use the heart flame to search for Luo Shang's whereabouts. The smaller the search area of the dragon searching array, the faster it would be to set it up. Mu Yu was now quite proficient in this array. It only took him an hour to set it up. Then, he used Luo Shang's heart flame as the array guide for the dragon searching array and began to search. According to Mu Yu's estimation, this simple dragon searching array could search at least 1,000 miles, which already covered the area of the gate of hell. However, he didn't expect that after searching for 4 hours, Mu Yu still couldn't find the whereabouts of Luo Shang. Strange, where did Luo Shang go? Mu Yu withdrew the dragon searching array. Luo Shang didn't seem to be in the area of the gate of hell at all. More than half a month ago, Luo Shang had said that Xiangnan was near the gate of hell. At that time, he had come alone. Mu Yu had no choice but to separate from Luo Shang in order to protect the ninth person of eternal life. Unexpectedly, after Mu Yu had finished his business, he still couldn't find Luo Shang. Could it be that Xiangnan found Luo Shang and wanted to leave, so Luo Shang chased after him? Little Shuai guessed. Mu Yu didn't rule out this possibility. The night gradually darkened. Mu Yu put away the array foundation of the dragon searching array and prepared to wait in the forest for a night. He would continue to investigate the situation tomorrow. Little Shuai had already caught a scarlet fire duck and started to roast it. Mu Yu set up some protective arrays to hide their tracks. Under the effect of these protective arrays, even if a self-cultivator flew over their heads, they wouldn't be able to see the fire Little Shuai was roasting. Mu Yu, on the other hand, began to calm down and cultivate. He had been busy for a while and rarely had time to calm down and cultivate. Because of Mu Zhixing's words, Mu Yu had become a lot more open-minded. Much of the hostility in his body had also disappeared. However, Mu Yu knew that as long as he continued to use the power of slaughter, he would gradually be affected by that power. Now, he had to learn how to control this power and take it out of his body. Mu Yu circulated the dust-falling cultivation technique. This was the only cultivation technique he had learned so far, but it was enough. The things that Jian Ying and Chen Feng taught were never ordinary. With the help of the 9 heavenly sword guides and array techniques, Mu Yu rarely suffered a loss in front of enemies. The dust-falling cultivation technique circulated 81 times in Mu Yu's body. Black and white spirit energy flowed continuously in his meridians. The two completely different spirit energies, one black and one white, flowed very slowly. They combined and separated from each other. If either spirit energy went out of control, it could cause an unpredictable and destructive disaster. However, at this moment they were cleverly maintained in a state of balance. The black and white spirit energies wanted to devour each other, but they couldn't. They were clearly very violent, but they were also very docile. When Mu Yu's dust-falling cultivation technique sped up, he felt as if his consciousness had left his body, as if it was watching him from the side. This was a very strange feeling. He saw another him sitting there, and the other him seemed to have become transparent. He could see all the meridians and blood in his body clearly. Even the color of the black and white spirit energies could be clearly heard. The black and white spirit energies flowed quickly. Gradually, he realized that something was wrong. This was because there were white thread-like things mixed in with his spirit energy. Mu Yu carefully looked at the white thread-like things. Suddenly, he was shocked. He recognized what they were. Soul energy? How can this be? There's actually soul energy in my body? Mu Yu was very surprised. Soul energy was the source of the threefold palace's power. It was also something that was produced by the souls of humans, human, and fae after they died. This thing was the foundation that kept the threefold palace from being destroyed. It was also the main reason why the threefold palace incited the war between humans and human. Ever since he separated the life energy and death energy of the underworld grass, Mu Ling had been contaminated by the death energy and turned into a sacred weapon of death. It specialized in absorbing the soul energy of the dead. Therefore, among the people he killed, no one's soul energy was collected by the threefold palace. Mu Yu had always thought that Mu Ling had devoured all this energy, but he didn't expect that after the incident in Eastern Sand City, Mu Ling would transfer all the soul energy to Mu Yu. How can there be such a thing in my body? Mu Yu was very disgusted with soul energy because it was the symbol of the threefold palace. Using the power that the threefold palace relied on to survive made him feel disgusted. Mu Yu tried to guide the soul energy out of his body, but the soul energy seemed to be attached to Mu Yu's meridians, completely unmoved. He continued to try to control the black and white spirit energy to devour the soul energy, but this time, the black and white spirit energy seemed to treat the soul energy in Mu Yu's body as one of its own and let it stay there peacefully. What's going on here? Mu Yu stopped cultivating and opened his eyes, somewhat puzzled. What's wrong, Mu Yu? Xiao Shuai asked curiously as he ate a leg of the scarlet fire duck. Xiao Shuai, soul energy has appeared in my body. The power of the heavenly soul energy is very strong. Mu Yu said seriously. Soul energy? Doesn't that mean you've become a part of the threefold palace? Xiao Shuai looked at Mu Yu with disdain and said, But your body isn't emitting white light. Those hypocritical fellows in the threefold palace always have all kinds of white light on their bodies. Just looking at them is annoying. Stop joking, I'm serious. Mu Yu said. Let me take a look for you. Xiao Shuai threw the duck leg in his hand to the side and jumped onto Mu Yu's shoulder. He stretched out his little claws and a sharp blade that was as thin as a cicada's wing pierced into Mu Yu's shoulder without any hindrance. What do you plan to do? Mu Yu asked. Xiao Shuai's sharp blade was incomparably sharp. Because it was light, there wasn't much pain when it pierced into the body. However, Mu Yu didn't feel safe with Xiao Shuai's claws. He clearly remembered that every time Xiao Shuai lightly slashed, a thick demonic beast would be cut off. He didn't have the slightest doubt that if Xiao Shuai's hand slipped, his arm would also be separated. Now, circulate your spirit energy. Let me see what that soul energy looks like. Xiao Shuai wiped his greasy claws on Mu Yu's clothes. Mu Yu was already used to this. Take it easy. Don't cut off my arm. Mu Yu warned. I know. After you remove it, I'll put it back on for you. Xiao Shuai urged. Mu Yu once again entered a state of cultivation. He once again circulated the falling dust sutra. His consciousness once again left his body and looked at his meridians. Only this time, he actually saw Xiao Shuai's shadow. Xiao Shuai's sharp blade was in Mu Yu's shoulder. It was as if it had fused with Mu Yu. When Mu Yu's spirit energy circulated, the black and white spirit energy was actually guided into Xiao Shuai's body by Xiao Shuai. How strange! How could this happen? Xiao Shuai's voice suddenly sounded in Mu Yu's ear. Mu Yu jumped in fright. He turned his head to look and discovered that an illusory Xiao Shuai had appeared on his shoulder at some unknown time. My consciousness left my body. How did you also leave my body? Mu Yu asked in astonishment. Because you're using the Falling Dust Sutra. In any case, I'm naturally very familiar with the Falling Dust Sutra. Therefore, I probably fused with you. This isn't the main point. The main point is that I feel that your soul energy is very strange. Xiao Shuai said strangely. Can you say something that I don't know? Chapter 870. When Mu Yu was fighting with Yi Fian and Gu Chaofeng, both of them from the third palace, he would be detected no matter if he was talking or fighting. He didn't know why, but after little Shuai's reminder, he realized it was because of this. Mu Ling's soul power was transferred to my body, and I became a member of the third palace? Mu Yu furrowed his brows. Mu Yu couldn't repair the blood-shrouding sky, which was formless and powerful. This was because this formation used Deadwood Daddy's life as its foundation. It was completely different from ordinary foundation arrays, and it was impossible to repair it. Little Shuai wagged his tail. Let's study and see if we can use this soul power. Although the third palace seems fake, it's undeniable that they're very powerful when they use their soul power. This might be a good opportunity to study them. Mu Yu nodded. You're right. Why is the third palace's soul power so powerful? This is a mystery and we need to study it. Soul power was the source of the third palace's power. If they could find the weakness of the third palace's soul power, it would be the same as grasping the third palace's Achilles' heel. Although Mu Yu felt that the blood-shrouding sky was tainted by the soul power, Mu Yu had to understand more about the third palace at this time. The first step to understanding soul power is to try and guide it, Little Shuai said. Then how do I guide this soul power? Mu Yu didn't have any concept of soul power. He only noticed the existence of soul power in his veins today. I don't know. I've never used it before. You can try. Little Shuai didn't understand soul power either. Mu Yu tried to control the attached soul power like how he controlled the black and white spiritual power. However, the soul power didn't seem to be used in a normal way, and he couldn't control it at all. The reason why the third palace was stronger than the average self-cultivator was because soul power seemed to be more powerful than ordinary spiritual power. This meant that the people in the third palace should have a special way to use soul power. He tried for a long time, but he still couldn't find a way to use the soul power. The soul power was very strong, and it covered all the veins in his body, but it didn't conflict with the black and white spirit power. The two coexisted peacefully, which was rare. Why don't we go back and ask that shameless guy? He might know how to get rid of the soul power. Little Shuai suggested. Mu Yu thought for a while. Soul energy does not affect me for now. There is no need to remove it. Back then, I was able to sense Gu Chaofeng's presence more easily than Luo Shang. It should be because of the soul energy in my body. If I keep this soul energy, it will be easier for me to find the people in the third palace. Clearwater City. The white ape demon king sneezed and rubbed his nose. Mu Yu wouldn't scold me again, would he? By the way, I feel like I forgot to tell him something important these days. Why can't I remember it now? What is it? I'm old and my memory is no longer useful. No, I have to hurry to Red Joy Brothel and talk about life with Hong Hong. I was the youngest when I was with Hong Hong. I should remember it then. The white ape demon king had long noticed the abnormality in Mu Yu's body, but he forgot to tell Mu Yu how to deal with the soul power. The night gradually passed. The first ray of sunlight tore a hole in the darkness and shone on the ground. Mu Yu opened his eyes. After a night of fruitless results, he was helpless against the soul power in his body. Little Shuai was snoring softly. Last night, he said that he wanted to help Mu Yu study how to use the soul power. However, he didn't find anything halfway and went to sleep. The only thing Mu Yu was sure of was that the blood protection shrouding sky was still protecting him. As long as he didn't make a move and didn't reveal his killing intent, the people in the third palace still couldn't see him. He could strike first. Little Shuai, we have to go find Xiang Nan and Luo Shang. Mu Yu stuffed Little Handsome into his chest pocket. Just in case, every time he left, he would clean up all the traces so that no one would be able to find any clues. Just as he began to clean up the bones left by Little Shuai, two figures suddenly flew over from the distance. People from the Gate of Hell? Mu Yu raised his eyebrows. They were already out of the Gate of Hell's territory. However, they weren't too far from the Gate of Hell, so it wasn't surprising that there were people from the Gate of Hell here. He wondered if he should kill these two people from the Gate of Hell. After all, one more person from the Gate of Hell meant one more disaster in the world. Killing people from the Gate of Hell never made Mu Yu feel guilty. However, the two people from the Gate of Hell seemed to be communicating with each other, and their voices soon reached Mu Yu's ears. "Gui-san, are we still going this time?" One of the people from the Gate of Hell who looked fat asked. The other person from the Gate of Hell called Gui-san said, "Gui-yang, are you afraid?" Gui-yang snorted, "I'm not afraid. I'm just a little afraid. After all, many of our brothers have already died there." Gui-san said expressionlessly, "We have to go even if we're afraid. The two of us were sent to investigate this matter. We have no choice. With our cultivation, we don't need to worry too much." Gui-yang and Gui-san were both at the third heavenly layer of the combination realm. At this level, there were very few people who could pose a threat to them. However, for Mu Yu, killing them was a piece of cake. "I still don't understand. Who is it that keeps asking Shadow Killer Winter Solstice of the Silhouette being to assassinate our people from the Gate of Hell?" The most annoying thing is that the Silhouette being has accepted the mission again and again. Gui-yang looked very angry. The higher-ups have already talked to the Silhouette being, but the Silhouette being is only responsible for the mission. They don't care who the target is. In short, if they dare to respond like this, then this time, we will make sure that Shadow Killer Winter Solstice will never return. Gui-san said coldly. Mu Yu quietly hid behind Gui-yang and Gui-san, keeping a suitable distance so that the other party couldn't detect him. At first, he planned to use the power of slaughter to kill these two people directly, but the conversation between the two people aroused Mu Yu's interest. "Someone keeps asking Shadow Killer Winter Solstice to assassinate people from the Gate of Hell?" Xiao Shuai asked with a yawn. "Who is so generous?" Mu Yu was puzzled. It must be known that the price to hire an assassin of the 20 solar terms was quite high. Depending on the cultivation level of the target, the price was not necessarily the same. In the past, Tian Yuehen, the leader of the Stargate, spent 70 million spirit stones to invite Shadow Killer Winter Solstice to assassinate Mu Yu. At that time, Mu Yu was just an out-of-body cultivator, and Shadow Killer Winter Solstice's cultivation level was also at the Severed Soul stage, but the price was already through the roof. Among the Silhouette beings assassins of the 20 solar terms, only 2 or 3 were on the Supreme Immortal list. Winter Solstice was not on the Supreme Immortal list, which meant that Shadow Killer Winter Solstice was an experienced veteran assassin who was at least 40 years old. This kind of assassin often had higher cultivation and was more terrifying. If one wanted to hire them, the price would probably be very high. However, this was not absolute. Because Mu Yu was very famous at that time, and he was also the disciple of a true god, so it was natural that the price would be high. However, if the target of the assassination was just a small fry, the price would probably not be that high. Who do you think would hate the people from the gate of hell so much? Could it be Xiang Nan or Luoshang? Xiao Shui guessed. It's possible. Let's go with them and see what's going on, Mu Yu said. At present, they couldn't find Luoshang's whereabouts, so it was meaningless to stay here, so they simply went to see who was going against the people from the gate of hell. If they wanted to hire Shadow Killer Winter Solstice, the price would not be low. According to the conversation between the two people from the gate of hell, they had already lost a lot of people, which meant that Shadow Killer Winter Solstice had at least killed them many times. If that was the case, the price would be astronomical. Gui Yang and Gui San hurried on with their journey, while Mu Yu followed behind without making a sound. After flying for about 3 hours, a city appeared in front of them. This city was called Chun'an City, and it was a medium-sized city. It didn't look as big as Dongsha City. Mu Yu originally thought that the two people from the Gate of Hell would go to Chun'an City, but they turned a corner and came to a small remote village outside Chun'an City. This small village seemed to have been abandoned for a long time, and the villagers had already moved away. There were broken bricks and tiles everywhere, and some vines had crawled all over the roofs. There were also some houses that seemed to have collapsed due to years of disrepair. The entire small village was shrouded in a layer of haze that couldn't be dispersed. It was eerie and made people feel very uncomfortable. Gui San and Gui Yang directly landed in the village. Soon, an out-of-body stage person from the Gate of Hell appeared in a dilapidated hut and led them in. The roof of this hut was also covered with wisteria vines. Mu Yu immediately dived into the wisteria vines without hesitation, and used the wisteria vines to observe the movements in the hut. The inside of the hut looked like a different scene. Inside, there were green willow, the wisps floating in the air, illuminating more than 20 people from the Gate of Hell who were dressed in black. Among these people from the Gate of Hell, Gui San and Gui Yang's cultivation were undoubtedly the highest. After they came here, everyone looked at them with eyes full of respect. "Tell me the situation." Gui San sat down coldly. "Yes, master." Immediately, a person from the Gate of Hell with pockmarks on his face stood out and said respectfully, "Master, we are from Yama's 13 groups. We were originally responsible for collecting souls in Chun'an City. According to the information from above, Yaman will come to Chun'an City in a month, so we have been waiting here. But we didn't expect that just 7 days ago, there was an accident at Yama's 12 group. The entire group was killed by Shadow Killer Winter Solstice. Only Gui Gufang, who passed on the information at that time, escaped. Where are the survivors of Yama's 12 groups?" Gui San asked. "Greetings, master. I am a survivor of Yama's 12 groups. I saw Shadow Killer Winter Solstice kill everyone in Yama's 12 groups with my own eyes." The one who spoke was a very young person from the Gate of Hell. When he talked about Shadow Killer Winter Solstice, his face was filled with deep fear. Chapter 871. The people that Shadow Killer wants to kill, he has never failed. How did you escape from his hands? Gui San asked. Replying to Darren, I was originally responsible for delivering information. That day I happened to be outside performing an information mission. When I was about to go back, I saw Shadow Killer Winter Solstice use a terrifying method to slaughter everyone in our Yama 12 group. I was so scared that I didn't know what to do. I could only run away in panic. Gui Yang coldly said from the side, "Do you know what punishment you will receive if you run away from a mission?" Gui Gufang of Yama 12 group was so scared that his face turned pale. He panicked and knelt on the ground begging for mercy. "Darren, please spare my life. I'm only an out-of-body stage cultivator. I'm not Shadow Killer Winter Solstice's opponent. Rushing out would only be suicide. Darren, please judge clearly." "Enough, get up," Gui San shouted. Gui Gufang stood up trembling. He quickly shrank into a dark corner. He didn't even dare to breathe. Gue-san squinted his eyes. He stretched out his knuckled fingers and lightly tapped on the table. He said, Shadow Killer Winter Solstice has already destroyed a total of 5 groups of Yama 12. Shadow Killer Winter Solstice wouldn't take the initiative to attack us. He's just a hired killer, then who would be so clear about our movements? These 5 groups were all lying in ambush outside the city that Yuman was about to attack, waiting to collect the souls killed by Yuman. We did this very covertly. Could it be that there's a traitor among us? Guiyang glanced at the other people from the Gate of Hell. All the people from the Gate of Hell cowered under his gaze. They didn't dare to respond. Mu Yu on the roof was disgusted with the actions of the people from the Gate of Hell. He didn't expect that when Yuman attacked the city of cultivators, the people from the Gate of Hell didn't think about how to help the cultivators fight against Yuman, but instead waited for the people in the city to be slaughtered by Yuman, then they would collect the souls. This was the same as the Threefold Palace. The Threefold Palace was waiting for the Yuman to massacre the city before collecting the souls of the dead. The people of the Gate of Hell were waiting for the Yuman to massacre the city before collecting the souls of the dead. This was a game set up by the Threefold Palace. The people from the Gate of Hell were familiar with the rules of the Threefold Palace and were the assistants of the Threefold Palace. Otherwise, they wouldn't know when Yuman would go and slaughter which city, and they wouldn't send the so-called Yuman's members to set up an ambush for Yuman to slaughter the city. How infuriating! Cultivators are also ignorant. They blindly believe in the Threefold Palace. It's like they're counting money for someone who sold them. Little Shuai muttered. Mu Yu couldn't agree more with Little Handsome's point of view. But now, it seemed that there was still someone who was tirelessly trying to save the cultivators. He was doing what he could, spending a lot of money to hire Shadow Killer Winter Solstice to eliminate the people from the Gate of Hell. So who was this person? Mu Yu. The people from the Gate of Hell are the henchmen of the Threefold Palace. Do you want to destroy them? Little Shuai asked. Destroying the people from the Gate of Hell is what I want to do, but not for the cultivators. Mu Yu replied. Little Shuai touched Mu Yu's chest and said, I think you will still save the cultivators, right? Mu Yu shook his head and said, It depends on my mood. He suddenly understood the way the evil people did things. It was hard to tell whether they were good or bad. They did things according to their mood, and there was no distinction between good and bad. Therefore, they lived a very carefree life. Mu Yu originally wanted to kill the people from the Gate of Hell directly, but after thinking about it, he decided to see how the people from the Gate of Hell would deal with Shadow Killer Winter Solstice first. What he was curious about was that because the silhouette being dealt with human heads, the people they killed would indirectly become the source of the power of the Threefold Palace. Originally, he suspected that the silhouette being was also controlled by the Threefold Palace. If someone kept bidding to kill the people from the Gate of Hell, then it was equivalent to killing each other between the silhouette being and the people from the Gate of Hell. Would the Threefold Palace allow such a thing to happen between the two forces under their control? In the dilapidated hut, Gui-san and Gui-yang sent all the people from Yama 13 away and began to discuss how to solve this matter. Gui-san said, I remember that there is also a stronghold of the silhouette being in Chun and City. Should we make the first move? How do you plan to make the first move? Gui-yang asked. It's very simple. The Yama Ghost Squad that we have lost are all related to the cities that were massacred by the Yu Meng demons. Since the intelligence from above says that the Yu Meng demons will set their eyes on Chun and City, then the Yama Ghost Squad here will definitely be targeted by the Winter Solstice. What we need to do is to hire Shadow Killer Winter Solstice to protect our Yama 13 teams before he accepts the assassination mission. Gui-san said. Gui-yang's eyes lit up, and the green ghost fire reflected in his eyes made him look extremely gloomy. Good idea. In this way, we don't have to fight Shadow Killer Winter Solstice, and we can also make the person who often goes against us unable to interfere with our plan. Mu Yu also had to admit that Gui-san's plan was very correct. because the silhouette being had a rule. In order to avoid the situation of their shadow killer killing each other, they were only allowed to accept the first mission that had a conflict. In other words, if the people from the Gate of Hell hired Shadow Killer Winter Solstice to protect the Yama 13 teams, then the mysterious person who always went against the people from the Gate of Hell would not be able to hire another Shadow Killer to assassinate the Yama 13 teams, because these two missions would cause the Shadow Killer to fight with each other, which was prohibited. Have you found out the lowest price to hire Shadow Killer Winter Solstice? Gui-san asked. Yes, the lowest price to hire Shadow Killer Winter Solstice is 10 million. However, the silhouette being refused to disclose the price to assassinate our Yama 13 teams, but it will not be less than 10 million. Gui-yang said. 10 million? So low? Mu-yu, you can sell it for 70 million. Xiao Shui said. Do you want to die? Mu-yu knocked on Xiao Shui's head. Having said that, Mu-yu was a little surprised by the price. When Shadow Killer Qing Ming came to assassinate him, it was already 70 million. But after thinking about it, it seemed to be acceptable. Because there was a rule in the Supreme Immortal list that people over the age of 40 could not kill Supreme Immortals, so Shadow Killer Winter Solstice could not come to kill Mu-yu. At that time, there were not many Shadow Killers that could be hired. Qing Ming was on the Supreme Immortal list at that time, and the person he faced was the disciple of a true god who was known to be able to create miracles. The risk was great, so the price was inevitable. But it turned out that it was still too naive to use 70 million to kill Mu-yu. Gui-san touched his chin and said, There's no time to lose, let's go to Chun and City immediately. The two people from the Gate of Hell quickly left the dilapidated village and went to Chun and City. Mu-yu pondered for a moment and followed. Now, because of Yuman, all the cities were forbidden to enter directly. They had to go through the city gate, and Chun and City was the same. Cultivators came and went. The people from the Gate of Hell quickly blended into the crowd and entered Chun and City. Mu-yu looked at the statue on the city gate of Chun and City and snorted coldly. The true god statue on the city gate had been replaced at some point. It was replaced by a huge stone tablet with the words, Triple Palace, written on it. Below the city wall on the left side of the city gate, the broken true god statue was scattered on the ground. It was covered in weeds and there were bricks and mud on it. Mu-yu silently walked to the statue and looked at it. It seemed that he could not get angry. He had already expected this situation. Xiao Shui was furious. Mu-yu touched Xiao Shui's head. Xiao Shui, you just said that I would still go and save the cultivators. Do you still think so now? Xiao Shui had already started scolding, unforgivable. Heartless and ungrateful. Save my ass. Let them die. Stupid and ignorant. Incurable. Ungrateful. You have already scolded me for being ungrateful. Can't I emphasize it again? Mu-yu looked at his master's statue and sighed in his heart. Master, have you ever thought that the cultivators you protected with all your heart would turn around and treat you like this? More than 100 years ago, Jian Ing Chen Feng locked all the Yuman in Moyen Mountain Range, allowing the cultivation world to be peaceful for more than 100 years. But now that Yuman came to the Triple Continent again, the cultivators forgot Jian Ing Chen Feng's kindness in the blink of an eye. The Triple Palace made these cultivators start to blame Jian Ing Chen Feng with just a few words. They even overturned his statue. Just like what Xiao Shui said, these cultivators were sold by the Triple Palace, and they even helped the Triple Palace count the money. It was really sad. I really want to see the scene of the people in this city being slaughtered, Xiao Shui said in a huff. Mu-yu smiled slightly. He seemed to be able to accept it now. He would no longer be angry about many things for no reason. Instead, he buried his anger deep in his heart. Since the cultivators had already chosen to blame Jian Ing Chen Feng and willingly became the Triple Palace's tool, then there was no need for him to feel guilty about standing by and doing nothing. Mom, look, it's the statue of a true god. In the distance, a 7 or 8-year-old boy who looked like a ruffian pointed at the statue below the city wall. His mother was gorgeously dressed and looked like the madam of some rich family. Seeing that her son was interested in the statue of a true god, she scolded, "What true god? It's all because of him that we are now being threatened by Yuman. Everyone is in danger. How can this kind of person be called a true god? The Triple Palace is our true god. Do you understand?" "I understand, Mom. Then I'll go teach Jian Ing Feng a lesson." The little boy quickly ran over, took off his pants and started to pee. A cold light flashed in Mu Yu's eyes. "Hey, stop it!" A little girl around the same age quickly ran over and restrained the little boy. "You're not allowed to be rude to the statue of a true god," the little girl angrily said. "No, I want to do this. My mom said that he's not a true god." The little boy did not care about the little girl's dissuasion. He happily opened his mouth and wanted to pee on the statue. However, a gust of wind suddenly blew. The pee drew a curve in the air and sprayed into the little boy's mouth. The little boy choked and immediately cried out loudly. He quickly ran over to his mother. Mu Yu thought back to the little boy named Qing Fan in Eastern Sand City. Then, he looked at the little boy in front of him who lived like a prince. Different families had different upbringing. Chapter 872. That kind of person isn't worth it, Mu Yu said indifferently. Mu Yu realized that there was a saying that was right. It wasn't that retribution wasn't coming, it was just that it wasn't time yet. But the time is coming. Mu Yu raised his head and looked at Chun and City. The stone tablet of the Sanchong Palace was so eye-catching. What would happen when Chun and City became a pile of ruins? Mu Yu couldn't help but think, would he also look at all of this with anticipation? Looking at those ungrateful cultivators being slaughtered by Yuman, looking at all the cultivators and mortals trembling in front of Yuman. At that time, the little boy and his mother would understand that the Sanchong Palace in their eyes wouldn't come to save them, no one would come to save them. The disciple of the true God who could have saved them wouldn't save them either. "Big brother, are you also here to despise the statue of the true God?" the little girl asked with her hands on her waist. When the little boy wanted to profane the statue of the true God, the little girl kept trying to stop him. Mu Yu turned his head and looked at the little girl. The little girl looked to be 7 or 8 years old. She had 2 spikes that pointed towards the sky and blinked her big watery eyes. She pouted her mouth and seemed a little angry. The little girl's mother at least taught the little girl the right things. "What I despise is not the statue, but the human heart," Mu Yu said lightly and was about to leave. "You even forgot the grace of the true God. Sooner or later you will suffer retribution. My mother said that the true God is the greatest person in the world. No matter what he does, we should respect him and not bite the hand that feeds us." The little girl squatted beside the statue of the true God and began to work hard to clean the weeds around the statue. She even carried a small wooden bucket over. The bucket was half filled with water and a clean cloth. Mu Yu stopped in his tracks. He took a deep breath and his heart seemed to throb again. When the whole world was covered in mud, a pure lotus would always be born to warm the world. Mu Yu turned around and walked to the little girl's side and squatted down. "What's your name?" Mu Yu reached out and wiped the dust off the statue. "I'm called Chenxi." "Chenxi? What a good name," Mu Yu said softly. Dawn, the first glimmer of light after the darkness, gave people hope. Just like the Dawn Valley established by the Luan Feng Demon King, it brought hope to the primitive demons who were oppressed by the Dragon Clan. The little Dawn in front of him gave Mu Yu some hope. Little Dawn tried his best to wipe away the dirt on the statue. He mumbled to himself, "My mother said, if there was no true God 100 years ago, our great-grandfather would have been murdered by Yuman, and I wouldn't have been born. Therefore, no matter what, we have to be grateful to the true God." Now that Yumon has appeared, it couldn't have been purposely released by the true God. Muyu wants to say something but hesitates. When will those self-cultivators understand Chenxi's mother's words? So you often come here to clean the dust on the true God statue? Muyu asked softly. Little Dawn nodded. I come here twice a day. I can't stop those immortal masters from taking down the true God's statue. They purposely put the true God's statue here for people to despise, but I don't think that's right, so I want to help the true God keep the statue clean. Little Dawn looked up at Muyu seriously. Big brother, if you're willing to help me clean the statue, you must also believe in the true God, right? Muyu smiled. Big brother is the person who believes in the true God the most in the world. Then will Big brother protect the true God statue? Little Dawn asked. Muyu hesitated for a moment, then suddenly reached out and touched the statue lightly. A wave of spiritual energy swept out like flowing water, and the statue slowly turned into dust and disappeared with the wind. Big brother, why did you destroy the statue? The little girl stood up and asked angrily. When the statue is destroyed, it will no longer be insulted by others. Respect should be placed in the heart. Muyu pointed to the position of her heart. The little girl blinked. You're right, but I'm still sad. Muyu reached out and patted the little girl's shoulder. Go home. Don't be sad, it's not you who should be sad, it's them. A formation pattern quietly disappeared into the little girl's body. I can't save the entire city, but I can save the people I think are worth saving. Muyu said in his heart. When the whole world was covered in mud, Muyu couldn't do anything, but at least he could protect this lotus. On a tree at the gate of Chun An City, Muyu leaned on the trunk. Muyu didn't enter the city. He didn't know where the silhouette being's stronghold was, so it would be troublesome to find it by himself. But he knew that the two people from the gate of hell would definitely come out again, so he just needed to wait at the city gate. 2 hours later, sure enough, Gui San and Gui Yang walked out of the city gate. Their faces didn't seem to be very good. The two didn't say anything, but after leaving Chun An City, they went to the deserted village. Muyu still followed them silently and followed them into the dark house that was about to collapse. Humph! How could there be such a thing? As soon as he entered the door, Gui Yang snorted angrily. Gui San also looked very angry. I didn't expect Shadow Killer Winter Solstice to accept the mission in advance. Although the person who contacted us didn't say anything, does he think that we don't know that their assassination target is the gate of hell? The silhouette being is too arrogant. They really think that the gate of hell is so easy to bully. I don't understand why the higher-ups don't turn against the silhouette being. Their Shadow Killer Winter Solstice has repeatedly ruined our plans. Gui Yang said gloomily. The higher-ups naturally have their own plans, you don't need to question anything. The silhouette being is everywhere in the 3 continents, it's not worth it to turn against them. We have to rely on ourselves for this matter. Gui San calmed down. What are you going to do? Gui Yang asked. Gui Shan stretched out his long fingernails and drew a circle on the table. The friction between the fingernails and the table made a sour and unpleasant sound, and then he said, Please enter the urn and catch the turtle in the urn. Gui Yang nodded knowingly, his eyes flashing with endless murderous light. Muyu left the abandoned village and found a tall tree near the village, so that he could always monitor the movements of the people from the gate of hell. This tree was surrounded by a powerful formation, and the sound was also blocked. Even if a cultivator of the Unity stage passed by, they wouldn't be able to detect his existence. He knew every move of the people from the gate of hell like the back of his hand. The people from the gate of hell knew that Shadow Killer Winter Solstice was coming, so they had already set up all kinds of powerful and strange ghost formations in the entire abandoned village. These ghost formations were very powerful. Gui San and Gui Yang obviously came prepared. Even an ordinary cultivator of the 9th heavenly layer of the Unity stage wouldn't be able to survive in these ghost formations. What are we going to do now? Xiao Shuai looked at the ghosts flashing in the abandoned village from time to time, and looked at the busy figures of the people from the gate of hell, and asked, "The silhouette being doesn't seem to be a good organization. Is this a dog-eat-dog fight? For a force like the silhouette being, Mu Yu wouldn't have a good impression of them just because they helped to deal with the people from the gate of hell. In the eyes of the silhouette being, there was only money. For them, as long as they could afford it, they would kill anyone. However, he didn't expect that someone would pay a sky-high price to invite Shadow Killer Winter Solstice to destroy the plan of the people from the gate of hell. But who was the rich man behind this? How did he know which city the Yu Meng Devil clan would attack? Let's watch the show. Mu Yu sat on the treetop, studying the teleportation array of the 5 elements and the teleportation array of the human race. He wanted to improve these 2 teleportation arrays. His fingers kept drawing mysterious patterns, and 2 very small teleportation arrays, the Yu Meng teleportation array and the human race teleportation array, were engraved in the air by him. The Yu Meng teleportation array is very different from the teleportation array of the human race. Not to mention them, even the teleportation array of the monster race has its own unique features. Why are you studying this? Xiao Shuai asked curiously. Mu Yu didn't answer. He just guided the patterns of the 2 teleportation arrays and tried to merge them together. Xiao Shuai blinked his eyes, looked at the distant Chun'an city, and said angrily, "You want to save the cultivators of Chun'an city, right? Those ungrateful people aren't worth saving." "I only want to save little Chun-Shi," Mu Yu replied curtly. Xiao Shuai jumped onto Mu Yu's shoulder and pulled Mu Yu's ear. "Then why don't you just bring little Chun-Shi out? There's more than one little Chun-Shi in that city." "Oh, you want to save those who are grateful, don't you?" Mu Yu didn't answer and continued to study the teleportation array. Xiao Shuai yawned in boredom. "I thought you were going to be a bad guy." "To those cultivators, I'm already a bad guy," Mu Yu said indifferently. They could disdain the true God that trapped Yuman. If Mu Yu saved these people, in the future, the Sanchong Palace would casually make up an excuse, and these people would follow the will of the Sanchong Palace and point their finger at another person. Mu Yu couldn't do anything about those ungrateful people. For 2 consecutive days, the people of the Gate of Hell didn't make any other movement. They had already set up traps, and all kinds of ghost techniques were spread throughout the small village, waiting for the arrival of Shadow Killer Winter Solstice, and then they would catch Winter Solstice off guard. Mu Yu was also pondering over his own teleportation array. Back then, his master didn't allow him to learn the array formations of the human race. It made sense because Mu Yu had already discovered the similarities and differences between the array formations of the Yumeng Devil race and the human race. He had only learned a single 5 elements teleportation array from Luo Shang, but just by relying on this 5 elements teleportation array, he was able to figure out the key points between array formations. If he followed the way the 5 elements teleportation array was arranged, he would be able to infer the other powerful 5 elements escape technique. However, the human race's array techniques were clearly superior. Similar to the array techniques of Mu Yu's master and Deadwood Daddy, Yuman couldn't compete with them. He knew how he was going to modify this teleportation array. The teleportation array of the Danding sect to the second heaven had given him a lot of inspiration. At that time, when they were going to the second layer of heaven, if they encountered any danger, they just had to crush the jade pendant to teleport them back. It didn't matter where they were. Mu Yu also planned to create a similar array. Normally, there were 2 teleportation arrays and they were fixed. However, Mu Yu couldn't go to every city to set up a teleportation array. That would take too much work, and he didn't want to save everyone. His plan was to only set up a large teleportation array to provide support. This way, when danger came, Those who had the array seal could activate the array seal at any time and leave the dangerous place to appear in the teleportation array that was meant to provide support. Little Shuai, come and try the teleportation array I modified. Mu Yu gently nudged Little Shuai, who was sleeping on a tree branch. At this time, the branches intertwined to form a comfortable nest, and there was a large leaf used as a blanket. Mu Yu made all of this according to Little Shuai's request. Little Shuai turned over in a daze. I'm hungry. Mu Yu smiled helplessly. Then I'll directly use you as an experiment. A complicated array pattern appeared in his hand, and the array pattern formed a heavenly sword-shaped array seal. It was about the size of a finger, and then he engraved it on Little Shuai's body. There was a very small teleportation array on his left, and as long as he activated the heavenly sword-shaped array seal, he could pull Little Shuai from anywhere to the teleportation array on his left. Mu Yu activated his spiritual power, and the array seal on Little Shuai's body immediately began to emit a light. A whirlpool appeared in the space where he was, and Little Shuai was instantly sucked in. When Little Shuai reappeared, he was already in the teleportation array on Mu Yu's left. Ah! It hurts, it hurts, it hurts! After Little Shuai appeared in the teleportation array, he touched his butt and shouted loudly. Fortunately, there was a soundproof array here, or else the people from the gate of hell would definitely be attracted. What? Does it hurt? Mu Yu asked in surprise. If this kind of teleportation array could hurt even the thick-skinned Little Shuai, then it definitely couldn't be used by a cultivator using it. Little Shuai said angrily, Mu Yu, why did you sneak attack me when I was sleeping? Mu Yu grabbed Little Shuai and put him in his arms. He patted Little Shuai and asked, I was just testing the teleportation array. Hurry up and tell me where the problem is so I can improve it. Little Shuai bit Mu Yu's finger. Why didn't you wake me up for your experiment? I did. Being bitten by an angry Little Shuai was no joke. Mu Yu's finger was immediately left with 2 small holes. Fortunately, Mu Yu's skin wasn't thin, and the holes quickly healed. Little Shuai snorted. Your teleportation array didn't even protect my body. It's a far cry from the Danding Sect's teleportation array. Mu Yu nodded thoughtfully. Generally, teleportation arrays had 2 fixed arrays that connected each other and teleported people from one end to the other. The fixed arrays had protective abilities, so they wouldn't tear people apart during the teleportation. Yu Meng's teleportation array couldn't teleport cultivators. Back in Dongsha City, he had modified Yu Meng's teleportation array to be able to teleport cultivators because he was right next to them. He could directly protect the people in the teleportation array. But when using an array seal that could teleport people anywhere, there wasn't a fixed array for protection. Plus, he couldn't be by everyone's side to protect them, so there was a lack of protection during the teleportation. But it's not bad that you're researching this array. I feel that this teleportation array has many other uses, not just for saving people. Chapter 873. Let's hear it. At first, Mu Yu only intended to use this array to save people. Think about it. If we can't beat the enemy, we can use the formation to teleport away. That way, we can break into the Threefold Palace's lair without any scruples. First, we'll get 10,000 explosive pills to blow up their doghouse. Then, when they're flustered and exasperated, we'll use the formation to escape. Xiao Shuai's eyes lit up. Mu Yu laughed involuntarily. If it were that easy, Deadwood Daddy would have used it when he went to snatch the soul return. The teleportation formation was a kind of spell, and there was a way to break it. Before the teleportation formation was activated, it could be destroyed to stop the teleportation. Even the teleportation formation that Mu Yu wanted to study now would have a formation pattern vortex appear when it was used. As long as one's cultivation was strong enough, it was more than enough to break the formation pattern vortex. However, Xiao Shuai's words gave Mu Yu some inspiration. Xiao Shuai's idea was to use the formation pattern to escape, which was also the original intention of Mu Yu's research. But if he thought about it the other way around, what if he used the formation pattern to attack? For example, if he wanted to lead a group of people into a heavily guarded sect and force his way in wouldn't work, then he could use a teleportation array. Mu Yu could sneak into the sect alone and set up a teleportation formation somewhere in the sect. This way, his people who had the formation pattern outside could directly activate it and silently appear in the teleportation formation set up in the sect. Wouldn't that be perfect? Mu Yu and the others would have to make a trip to the Threefold Palace in the future. It wasn't easy to break into the Threefold Palace, and no one knew where they were. If he controlled someone in the Threefold Palace to bring in the teleportation formation prepared in advance, then Mu Yu could activate the formation pattern outside and quietly enter the Threefold Palace. I think Xiao Shuai's idea is good. Then I have to deal with this teleportation formation. After this, we'll go to the Danding sect. Mu Yu said. Okay, then we'll go to the Danding sect and get 10,000 explosive pills. No, 1,000,000. No. How about 10 million? The more the better. Xiao Shuai waved his little fist smugly. He's not going to explode the pill. Mu Yu shook his head helplessly. He wanted to study the Pill Cauldron School's teleportation array. However, the premise of all his plans was to first create this teleportation array. The Pill Cauldron sect's teleportation array had been around for a long time. It was left behind from ancient times. The way it was set up was different from the current array technique. There was a special protective mechanism inside. The fact that the jade pendant of the teleportation array was able to withstand the terrifying pressure of the spatial barrier was enough to show how powerful this array technique was. In fact, when Mu Yu set up the seal, he also left a protective force in the seal. However, this formation was different from ordinary two-way teleportation formations. It was a formation that could teleport people away at any time and place. It wasn't a fixed teleportation formation. Therefore, the protective force would always be worn away. It just so happens that I also need to go to the Danding sect to do something, Mu Yu said. For example, they could bury Helian Kong's soul tool in the Pill Cauldron sect's cemetery. Or they could kill Shi Dengtian. However, before that, Mu Yu still planned to stay and see how Shadow Killer Dong Zhi killed the people from the Gate of Hell. Mu Yu didn't have to wait for long. On the fourth night, the abandoned village started to become somewhat bleak. The moon in the sky was very bright, but when the moon shone on the entire village, it appeared somewhat gloomy and pale. He raised his head and looked at the night sky. Suddenly, he thought of something. Back then, in the desert of Clearwater City, when Shadow Killer Qing Ming came to assassinate him, it was also a night like this. They're finally here. Mu Yu looked at the bright moon in the sky. Unknowingly, a graceful snow eagle had appeared beside the bright moon. This snow eagle was white, and its entire body carried an austere aura. It was like a cold light in the night sky, biting cold and eye-catching. Snow Eagle, Pulsatilla, Shadow Killer really has a lot of tricks up his sleeve, Mu Yu said. When Shadow Killer Qing Ming tried to assassinate Mu Yu, there was a Pulsatilla by Qing Ming's side. Its name was Return to Heaven. Shadow Killer had an extremely powerful shadow concealment technique. He could appear and disappear unpredictably in the shadows. As long as there were shadows, he could become a foothold for them to appear, making it impossible for people to guard against him. The snow eagle flapped its wings and slowly flew towards the abandoned village. Its arrival seemed to cause the temperature of the entire village to gradually drop. Winter had quietly arrived. It was the winter solstice. The snow eagle circled around the abandoned village, not making any sound. Under the moonlight, the snow eagle's shadows crisscrossed above the village. That shadow was very fast, streaking past the broken bricks and tiles of the village, streaking past every dark corner of the village. However, what Mu Yu didn't expect was that the snow eagle in the sky suddenly split into two, transforming into a second snow eagle. And this snow eagle's target was actually Mu Yu's location. Whoosh! The concealment array set up by Mu Yu was directly torn apart, turning into countless fragments that scattered. His gaze turned cold, and the array patterns under his feet flashed. The Big Dipper constellation array had already teleported him out and landed in the air. The moonlight enveloped Mu Yu's body, forming a long and narrow shadow on the ground. However, this shadow didn't connect with Mu Yu. Mu Yu coldly looked at the shadow he projected on the ground. The shadow seemed to have lost control and shot out from the ground. A pitch-black shadow flew towards Mu Yu. Then, it stood in midair, facing Mu Yu. This was a shadow without a face. It was also Shadow Killer Winter's solstice. What a keen sense of smell! Mu Yu used his array to hide extremely well, but he was still discovered by Shadow Killer Winter's solstice. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice appeared from Mu Yu's shadow, locking a faintly discernible killing intent onto Mu Yu. I don't like being spied on when I'm on a mission. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice's voice was very cold, like cold iron without any emotion. I just want to see how the people in the gate of hell die. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice gave Mu Yu a very dangerous feeling. The killing intent on his body was restrained and steady, not leaking out. However, it couldn't hide from Mu Yu, who had the power of killing. He was certain that if he fought with Shadow Killer Winter's solstice, it wouldn't be easy. However, Mu Yu wasn't afraid. A dangerous opponent would only make him stronger. You'll see. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice didn't move. However, the snow eagle above the abandoned village flew faster and faster. In the end, only afterimages were left in the entire village. It was fast and terrifying. If one paid close attention, they would see that these afterimages didn't overlap on the abandoned village, but the places where each afterimage passed by were covered with a thick layer of frost. Winter was coming. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless soft sounds came from the village. Then, everything returned to silence, as if nothing had happened. In order to deal with Shadow Killer Winter's solstice's arrival, the people in the Gate of Hell had set up countless ghost spells in the small village. They wanted to catch Shadow Killer Winter's solstice like a turtle in a jar. However, the snow eagle that Shadow Killer Winter's solstice brought left afterimages all over the village without triggering any ghost spells. Shadow hiding is as good as the rumors say, Mu Yu said simply. His perception of life force was very strong. There had been countless people from the Gate of Hell hiding in the village, but now the village was filled with the smell of blood. There was no trace of life. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice had killed all the people from the Gate of Hell in the time it took to talk to Mu Yu. What else do you want to see? Shadow Killer Winter's solstice continued to ask. Mu Yu shook his head. The people from the Gate of Hell are dead. I'm relieved. I'm just worried that you'll leave a fish out of the net like last time. I did leave a fish out of the net. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice's cold killing intent fell on Mu Yu. Mu Yu said indifferently, You want to kill me? The biting cold killing intent disappeared in a flash. No one is paying me to kill you. I don't do business at a loss. Mu Yu's shadow gradually fell to the ground and returned to its original appearance. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice was in Mu Yu's shadow. The snow eagle flew over from the distance and crossed Mu Yu's shadow. Then, the killing intent disappeared from Mu Yu's shadow and merged into the snow eagle's shadow. The two snow eagles gradually merged into one and flew towards the bright moon in the sky. They flew further and further into the night until they finally became a dot. Killing people took only a moment. The night was Shadow Killer's battlefield. Winter's solstice is much stronger than Qingming, Little Shuai couldn't help but say. Mu Yu nodded. The killing intent accumulated in Shadow Killer Winter's solstice was very strong. It was far from what Qingming could compare with. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice brought a lot of pressure to Muyu. If Muyu used his full strength, he would be much stronger than ordinary tribulation stage cultivators. However, when facing Shadow Killer Winter's solstice, Muyu still felt threatened. Shadow Killer really couldn't be underestimated. Muyu looked at the moon in the sky and thought about something. Muyu, what are you thinking about? Little Shuai asked. Didn't you notice it just now? The entire village of the Gate of Hell people has been killed by Shadow Killer Winter's solstice, but none of their soul power escaped, Muyu said. Another reason why he waited here was that he wanted to take away the soul power of the people in the Gate of Hell, but Shadow Killer Winter's solstice didn't leave any soul power behind. Isn't the silhouette being a pawn of the Sanchong Palace? He must have taken away the soul power just now, Little Shuai guessed. Muyu shook his head and said, I don't think so. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice doesn't have the aura of the Sanchong Palace. At least, I didn't feel it. Then we should have captured Shadow Killer Winter's solstice and asked him about it. Little Shuai said straightforwardly. Someone paid Shadow Killer Winter's solstice to assassinate the people in the Gate of Hell. If I attacked Shadow Killer Winter's solstice, wouldn't that ruin that person's plan? Muyu said. Muyu guessed that it was most likely Xiang Nan who paid Shadow Killer Winter's solstice to assassinate the people in the Gate of Hell. Because it was very easy for Xiang Nan to get money. He could control 100,000 people in Clearwater City, so he could also control those rich people. Besides, I'm not confident that I can kill Shadow Killer Winter's solstice. He is even stronger than Gu Chaofeng. Muyu didn't hide anything. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice was stronger than Gu Chaofeng, but he didn't appear on the Supreme Immortal Ranking Board. There was only one explanation. Shadow Killer Winter's solstice was over 40 years old. What kind of existence was the silhouette being that they had such a powerful tribulation stage assassin? Chapter 874. Muyu stepped out, and in the blink of an eye, he had landed in the abandoned village. The broken bricks and tiles were still covered with a thick layer of frost, which had not melted. There were 39 people from the Gate of Hell in the whole village. They had set up an inescapable net, and each one of them was hiding in the dark, ready to ambush Shadow Killer Winter Solstice. But these people still underestimated the strength of Shadow Killer Winter Solstice. They didn't even have time to make a move before they could no longer move. To deal with Shadow Killer, who had the shadow hiding technique, hiding in the shadows was tantamount to seeking death. Muyu knew where these people from the Gate of Hell were hiding. He already knew this village like the back of his hand. A formation pattern appeared in his hand, like a lantern, shining in the darkness ahead, illuminating the person from the Gate of Hell behind the broken wall in front of him. This person from the Gate of Hell tightly covered his throat with his hands, but his chest and heart had long been bleeding. The light illuminated his shadow. His shadow was very strange. A pitch-black shadow rope was tightly wrapped around the neck of this person from the Devil's Gate. There were 2 holes in the shadow's chest where his heart was, as if it had been pierced by the light. That was also the fatal wound of this person from the Devil's Gate. The shadow-killing technique was so strange. Injuring the shadow was equivalent to injuring the body. The most surprising thing was that when the body was injured, the shadow was also damaged. The light shone on the second person from the Gate of Hell. This person was hiding behind a broken door. His hands were still in a state of forming seals, but his eyes were wide open in horror. In the center of his shadow's forehead, there was a light hole, just like the bloody hole on his body's forehead. The third person from the Gate of Hell was Gui-san, whom Muyu saw. Gui-san's face was full of shock. His eyes were full of disbelief. His right hand had strangely pierced through his body, coming out from his back, and his heart was in his own right hand. Rather than saying that Gui-san did all this himself, it was better to say that his shadow controlled him to do these things. A big hole appeared in the chest of Gui San's shadow, and the shadow held a heart in its hand. Then Mu Yu saw Gui Yang in the shadows. Gui Yang had already summoned his twin. The twin also left a shadow on the ground. But whether it was Gui Yang or his twin, their throats were cut by a sword. Their necks were almost cut off. This was the case for both the main body and the shadow. Out of so many people, only Gui Yang was able to summon his twins in time. The other twins didn't even have the chance to come out before they died. What a fast method of killing! Mu Yu felt more and more shocked as he watched. These people from the gate of hell hiding in the shadows, each one of them died miserably. But after they died, they didn't seem to fall down. Instead, they maintained the same posture as when they were alive. When Mu Yu's light shone on the shadows of these people from the gate of hell, their shadows were very strange. Some of the shadows were covered with countless holes, as if their hearts were pierced by thousands of arrows. Some of the shadows had 2 light holes in their eyes, as if their eyes were dug out. Some of the shadows even had a dagger inserted into the top of their head, leaving only the hilt, but there was no trace of the dagger on their body. Mu Yu was no stranger to Shadow Kill's shadow hiding technique. When he fought with Shadow Kill Qingming, it could be said that he had exhausted all of his strength. He deeply understood the power of this technique. In the end, it was Mu Yu who killed Qingming, so he didn't see what would happen after the shadow hiding technique killed people. This was the first time he saw how the shadow killed people. Using the shadow to kill people was Shadow Kill's unique ability. This extremely powerful assassination method made countless self-cultivators tremble in fear. Thus, Shadow Kill's fierce reputation made countless self-cultivators tremble in fear. Once you were targeted by Shadow Kill, then one night, you would definitely die on your own shadow. Little Shuai kept looking at these people from the gate of hell who were still in the same posture as before they died. He asked curiously, "These Japanese people never fall down?" He found it strange because one of the people from the gate of hell was tilted back 45 degrees, but he still didn't fall down. He was nailed to the ground by a shadow spear. The shadow spear pierced through his throat, keeping his body in the same posture as if he was about to fall down but couldn't. And this person from the gate of hell didn't have a spear in his body at all. There was only a big bloody hole in his throat. Mu Yu glanced at the moon and nodded thoughtfully. "I think these people will only fall when their shadows become a dot." The array pattern in Mu Yu's hand had already flown above the head of the person from the gate of hell who had been pierced by the shadow spear. The light from the array pattern shone on his shadow, turning it into a ball of shadow. Bang! The body of the person from the gate of hell who had been pierced by the shadow spear fell to the ground with a loud bang. Little Shuai looked at the fallen person in surprise. Then, he saw the people from the gate of hell in the small house and asked, "Then what should we do with these Japanese people hiding in the house where the sunlight can't reach? They can only stand in the shadows and rot." Mu Yu put away the array pattern and left the abandoned village. In the shadows of the trees in the distance, a pitch-black shadow was imperceptibly watching Mu Yu's every move, as if waiting for something. Shadow Kill Winter Solstice hadn't left yet. The aura of slaughter is very strong. Shadow Kill Winter Solstice looked at Mu Yu's back and said, as if he was talking to himself, "Every shadow killer was stained with the blood of countless people. They were messengers who walked in the night, living in the shadows and harvesting the lives of the people designated by their employer. They had accumulated a lifetime of killing intent, which was cold and bone-piercing. However, Shadow Kill Winter Solstice could feel the terrifying killing intent on Mu Yu's body. That kind of aura was even stronger than his. But the mission in Chun An City hasn't been completed yet." Shadow Kill Winter Solstice let out a fleeting voice and then disappeared into the shadows of the trees. The wind blew and the shadows disappeared. Some returned to silence, and only the leaves rustled. As soon as the sky brightened, the sleeping Pill City began to become active. Cultivators began to move about in this huge city one after another. Cultivators who entered and left the city had to pass through the city's defense array's strict check. Muyu also came to Pill City. Pill City was a big city under the jurisdiction of the Pill Cauldron sect. It was also a place where countless cultivators gathered. Its scale wasn't smaller than Eastern Sand City. There was also a 100-herb hall in Pill City. The shop took up a large area and was the largest shop in the city. In Pill City's 100-herb hall, there were only pills that couldn't be bought at a price. Compared to other cities that needed to be transferred from other places to buy precious pills, there was no need to worry at all here. This was because Pill City was very close to the Pill Cauldron sect. However, unlike other cities, Pill City still had a statue of Jian Ing Feng on the city gate. It seemed that Jian Ing Feng's statue hadn't been replaced yet. This made Muyu feel quite surprised. When all the cultivators were attacking Jian Ing Feng, Pill City still dared to keep the statue of a true god. It was really surprising. Muyu, you are so nice. You specially came to Pill City to buy candied haws for me. Xiao Shui was so happy that his eyes were sparkling. He held more than a dozen skewers of candied fruits in his hands as he followed behind Muyu. It was unknown how his little hands could hold so many skewers of candied fruit. Don't lose me. Muyu walked on the street. The streets were bustling with people. Cultivators came and went. It was very lively. Little Handsome had already turned into his human form again. He wanted to eat, so he definitely wouldn't be obedient. If he kept his little beast form, he would be easily recognized. Therefore, Muyu let him turn into a little kid and follow behind Muyu. Muyu naturally didn't come to Pill City to buy candied haws for Little Handsome. He wanted to find a way to enter the Pill Cauldron sect. Now that the cultivation world had started to attack him again, although he was the branch master of the Pill Cauldron sect's Green Bamboo Peak, this branch master was only in name. Moreover, the Pill Cauldron sect probably couldn't wait to cut ties with him. Therefore, swaggering into the Pill Cauldron sect would cause unnecessary trouble. Muyu wasn't afraid of anything. He just didn't want to make things difficult for the Pill Cauldron sect's Taoist Yundan. This was Deadwood Daddy's route. Even if Muyu didn't like this place, he didn't want to cause trouble. However, Shi Dengtian still had to be killed. There was no doubt about that. Are we going to the 100-herb hall? Little Handsome's mouth was stuffed as he blinked and asked. I need to see if there's anyone I know. Muyu passed by an inn called The Four Seas Are Home, and suddenly felt a little emotional. A few years ago, he had brought Deadwood Daddy to Pill City for the first time. They had stayed in this inn. This was the property of the Pill Cauldron sect. At that time, he had also become enemies with Shi Dengtian's grandson, Shi Minghui. However, he had also met Kai Lai here. In the blink of an eye, so many years had passed. Deadwood Daddy was now in trouble, but the Four Seas Are Home inn was still so simple. Cultivators came and went in an endless stream. Business was booming. Things were still the same, but people had changed. Muyu thought for a moment, then turned and entered the inn. He didn't expect to meet Kai Lai here this time. However, he had some thoughts about Deadwood Daddy in his heart, so he wanted to come and take a look. The waiter in the inn immediately came over and asked Muyu if he wanted to have a meal or stay in the inn. Muyu didn't want to stay in the inn, so he found a quiet corner and sat down. Little Handsome casually asked the waiter and then ordered a table of dishes. There were many customers in the inn. Everyone was talking noisily about what had happened in the cultivation world and where there was any big news. Inns and restaurants were the best places to gather information. In this news, the Xian Immortal battle in 2 months was no longer considered news. The Sanchong Palace's call for everyone to fight against Yuman was almost outdated. Muyu was also used to hearing about the collective crusade against Jian Ing Feng and his 5 disciples. In this matter, Qiao Shui, who could control water, was also rumored to be Jian Ing Feng's disciple. Mu Yu wasn't interested in any dark horse or genius who had been hiding in seclusion for so many years and was now rushing up the extreme immortal rankings and becoming the most promising extreme immortal. What everyone was talking about the most was the Yu Meng Devil Clan's attack on the major cities. So far, the Yu Meng Devil Clan had already attacked 5 cities, and the Eastern Sand City was only the 4th. After that, another city was attacked. However, everyone was more at ease with Pill City. This was a large city and it was near the Pill Cauldron sect. Once it was attacked, the Pill Cauldron sect would immediately receive the news and gather people from the 8 sects to come and help. Chapter 875. In the past, the cultivation world had constantly criticized the drawbacks of array masters. Array masters were the most explosive cultivators, but they were also the most despised existence. This was because their battles were usually one-off. After using their strongest array skills, they would start to run out of energy. If they couldn't kill the enemy, they would be killed by the enemy. Therefore, no one thought highly of array masters. However, the main function of an array master was to arrange all kinds of array formations. Array formations were fixed, and most of them were mainly for defense. They were quite effective against the Yumeng Devils. Therefore, at this critical juncture where the Yumeng Devils were wreaking havoc, everyone remembered the various benefits of an array master. Now, Yuman had already slaughtered a few cities, but the defensive arrays didn't seem to be as effective as the legends said. Everyone suspected that the defensive arrays had been in disrepair for a long time, which allowed Yuman to succeed so many times. This also meant that the defensive arrays needed experienced people to check and repair them. The only person who could take on this responsibility was the sect leader of the array faction, Zhuge Shaosheng. Now, the sect leader of the array faction, Zhuge Shaosheng, had become an existence that everyone respected. His status and prestige had already surpassed the existence of the 8 Gate. Almost every city wanted to invite him to check the strength of the defensive arrays and to set up teleportation arrays. If Yuman's attack was too sudden, he could teleport the cultivators out of the city silently. The array masters that had declined in the past were now like alchemists. They were respected everywhere they went. Have you heard? The sect leader of the array faction, Zhuge Shaosheng, is coming to Pill City tomorrow. What? Sect leader Zhuge is coming? Yes. The sect leader of the Pill Cauldron sect, Daoist Yundan, personally invited him. He's going to invite him to the Pill Cauldron sect as a guest. Yes, that's right. I heard about this too. Our Pill City hasn't set up a teleportation array yet. Zhuge Shaosheng is here to set up a teleportation array. There are also various arrays that can be used to transmit information to each other. This way, when Yuman attacks, we can quickly send the news to other cities so that they can quickly come to our aid. Then can we remove the statue of Jian Ying and Qinfeng? Seeing Jian Ying and Qinfeng's statue makes me angry. It's all because of him that Yuman is wreaking havoc. I heard that Zhuge Shaosheng didn't agree to remove the statue of Jian Ying Qinfeng because that statue is the foundation of some kind of city-protecting formation. It is irreplaceable. Every city that Zhuge Shaosheng personally inspected, Jian Ying Qinfeng's statue was kept. Those cities that removed the Sword Shadow and Qinfeng's statues will be in trouble. It's equivalent to them destroying the city-protecting array. Can't the stone tablet in the threefold palace be used as the array base? That stone tablet was erected by them, not by the third-layer palace, so it doesn't seem to be possible. Right now, the people in those cities are anxious. In the past, I don't know who set up the city-protecting array. He actually used the statue of Jian Ying and Qinfeng as the base of the array. Now that I think about it, it really was a mistake. But then again, being a formation master is really a popular profession now. I I used to look down on array masters. I really regret it. If I had gone to learn about formations at that time, I would definitely be able to make a lot of money now. Come on. You have to pass 3 of the 8 gates of the formation sect first. You're still thinking about making money at a time like this. When Yaman bites you to death, it doesn't matter how much money you have. The diners at the side were chatting and joking with each other. However, from their tone, their attitude towards array masters had changed drastically. Many people were even considering letting their sons learn about formations in the future. Old man Zhuge is coming here. We're really lucky. Xiao Shuai held the plate and ate until his mouth was full of oil. Even his nose was stained with meat. Mu Yu nodded. He also didn't expect Zhuge Xiaosheng to come here. Otherwise, he might have directly used the Divine Soul Array to control a Danding sect disciple to sneak in. In any case, he had already used a similar method when he went to the Mortal Dust sect. However, Zhuge Xiaosheng has already started to set up a teleportation array. That way, the cultivator's life will be saved. Xiao Shuai picked up the big bowl of soup and drank it directly. He never ate with a spoon or chopstick. The teleportation distance of an ordinary teleportation formation is very short, and most of the teleportation formations are very complicated. So, the number of people that can be teleported at one time can't be too large. If the Yumeng demons launch a surprise attack, it will take at least a few days and nights to teleport everyone away. Mu Yu had been studying the teleportation arrays of the human race these days, so he was very clear about these things. The teleportation arrays left behind in the cultivation world had a lot of drawback. They weren't as powerful as the ancient teleportation array of the Danding sect. Then are we going to wait for Zhuge Xiaosheng? Xiao Shuai asked while holding a drumstick. Yes, it's easier to follow him into the Danding sect. Mu Yu didn't know why, but when he said these words, he felt a little ridiculous. He was obviously a branch master of the Danding school, but he still had to go back secretly. He was afraid that this was the most sullen branch master in the history of the Danding school. Mu Yu stayed at the Four Seas is home in. Since Zhuge Xiaosheng would come to this city tomorrow to check the city's defensive array and set up the teleportation array, then he would definitely meet Zhuge Xiaosheng. At that time, he would just have to follow Zhuge Xiaosheng. In the afternoon, Xiao Shuai said that he wanted to go shopping, so Mu Yu went with him. At this time, he also discovered a strange phenomenon. This was because there were many small stalls on the street selling all kinds of evil-warding treasures. There was a water-cold demon beast leather coat that could prevent fire, a meteorite that could force Jin Yumeng to retreat from the depths of the Black Demon Mountain, a 4th-rank demon beast's saliva that could melt Earth Yumeng, a 5th-rank demon beast's undead dog's blood that could stain water Yumeng, and garlic that grew in the snow of the heavenly mountain could smoke wood Yumeng away in order to deal with Yuman. There were all kinds of strange things. Of course, the most popular ones were the various Xian array treasures produced by the array faction, which were the most valued nowadays. The so-called Xian array treasures were engraved on a certain array base. They could activate the array at any time and display the array. It was similar to the green jade used by the $1 Million Trading Company to track extreme immortals. A peddling voice on the street attracted most of the cultivators. Passing by, don't miss it! The array faction's latest fire-warding array, which can resist Xian stage fire Yumeng's self-defense. A young man with freckles on his face was waving a blue jade pendant in his hand. This jade pendant was flowing with colorful lights, and it indeed contained a strong fluctuation of spiritual power. Yuman's strength was divided into Heaven Stage, Earth Stage, Xian Stage, and Yellow Stage from high to low. The corresponding strength was roughly equivalent to Qi Refining and Foundation Establishment Stage. Xian Stage was equivalent to Gold Core and Nascent Soul Stage. Earth Stage was equivalent to Out-of-Body Stage and Spirit Severing Stage, and Heaven Stage was equivalent to Combination Stage. Within each stage of Yuman, there were also differences in strength. For example, Earth Stage Yaman was divided into High Earth Stage and Low Earth Stage. High Earth Stage Yaman's strength was equivalent to Spirit Severing Stage, while Low Earth Stage Yaman's strength was equivalent to Out-of-Body Stage. Now that Yaman had begun to rise, cultivators began to gradually realize that understanding Yaman's strength was the most important, so everyone was familiar with the division of Yaman's strength. This freckled young man advertised that the blue jade pendant in his hand could deal with Xian Stage Fire Yaman, which meant that it could deal with Nascent Soul Stage Yaman. At this time, his stall was surrounded by a large group of cultivators, who were pointing at the Xian array treasures that the freckled young man was selling. "Is this really made by the array faction?" an uncle asked in a low, muffled voice. The freckled young man patted his chest and said, "I guarantee that all the Xian array treasures I sell are from the array faction, and I'm honest with you. There's also the latest anti-counterfeit symbol of the array faction here. Look carefully." The freckled young man pointed out the array faction symbol at the bottom of the jade pendant to everyone. The symbol of the array faction was a black and white 8 trigram, and this symbol would be engraved on all the small items made by the array faction. "How much is this fire warding array?" Now that everyone was paying attention to the array faction, if the freckled young man was really selling items from the array faction, it could be said to be a hot item. "I have fire warding arrays of different strengths here. Now that Yaman is acting recklessly, I'm selling these Xian array treasures to protect everyone's safety, so the price is very affordable, and the price is only 998. You didn't hear wrong. As long as you pay 998, you can bring home the fire warding array from the array faction. Your safety is guaranteed when facing Fire Yaman." The freckled young man began to advertise the items he was selling. "Then, other than the fire warding array, are there any other treasures? Yaman isn't as simple as Fire Yaman." A bald old man asked. This old mister asked a good question. "Other than the fire warding array, I also have a metal control array to deal with Jin Yaman. But against a mystic Jin Yaman, when Jin Yaman controls the sharp metal blades to attack, I can activate my metal manipulation formation. The formation will cover your body, and any blade that comes at you will be repelled. Everyone, look carefully." The freckled young man picked up another white metal array base that was the size of a fist from his stall. Then, he activated the spiritual energy in his hand, and a white array pattern suddenly flowed out from the metal array base, enveloping him. A 15 or 16-year-old girl beside him shouted, "Everyone, make way, swords have no eyes, and you can't hurt the innocent." The crowd quickly retreated, making space for the freckled young man and girl. The girl's cultivation seemed to be only at the foundation establishment stage. She picked up a blade in her hand and slashed at the freckled young man. The freckled young man looked at the girl with confidence and didn't dodge. When the blade was 2 feet away from the freckled young man's head, the freckled young man's body emitted a white light, and then the blade was pulled to the side by a strange force. "Look, this is the power of the metal control array. Any blade controlled by Yaman won't be able to hit it." The girl threw a few axes, hammers, sickles, and hammers at the young man, but they were all repelled by the metal control array on the freckled young man's body. The crowd immediately let out a cry of surprise. This metal control array was simply a divine item to deal with Jin Yaman. This metal control formation can deal with Jin Yaman, who is also a nascent soul stage Jin Yaman. Let's invite this nascent soul stage senior to give it a try. The freckled young man pointed at the nascent soul stage bald old man in the crowd and said. The bald old man immediately stood up and said, "All right, then this old man will respectfully accept. Watch out for my sword." A brown flying sword flew out from his hand, and the aura of a nascent soul stage was unreservedly displayed. The flying sword pierced through the air and pierced towards the freckled young man. The white light on the freckled young man's body lit up again, repelling the bald old man's flying sword. Heavens! Is this real? The bald old man said with great surprise. The crowd immediately became excited. This metal control array was not only used to deal with Genumon, but also to deal with cultivators themselves. I want to buy it! Me too. Such a good thing, and it's even produced by the array faction. It's a loss if you don't buy it. This old man wants one too. The bald old man was the first to take out his spirit stones and buy the metal control array. The other cultivators also began to rush over, fearing that it would be snatched away if they were a step too late. Mu Yu and little Shuai joined in the fun at the side. Seeing the freckled young man handing over the items and the girl next to him collecting money, they felt a burst of laughter in their hearts. That's something that doesn't belong to our array faction, right? Little Shuai asked while licking a stick of candied hawthorn. Back then, he had happily sat on the throne in the array hall, enjoying the worship of all the Khanate array masters of the array faction. Therefore, he had always thought of himself as the young master of the array faction. The symbol of the array faction is indeed an 8 trigrams array. However, the 8 trigrams array of the array faction can move, especially the Tai Chi Yin Yang fish in the middle of the 8 trigrams. They can rotate and flow with each other. Their 8 trigrams array won't move. It's a fake, Mu Yu said. But the array technique they drew seems to be pretty good, Little Shuai said. The fire warding array is indeed a pretty good array technique. Unfortunately, that level of fire warding array is probably not enough to deal with Huayuman, who is equivalent to a nascent soul stage cultivator. At most, it can only deal with the Jindan period. As for the metal control array, it's probably just a piece of iron magnet. They used array techniques to change the iron magnet into a repulsive iron magnet. At most, it can only deal with the Jindan period. After all, Mu Yu was the leader of the array talisman sect. He could see the power of the array created by the freckled young man at a glance. But it seems like so many people have been deceived, Little Shuai said. Mu Yu shook his head. Using our array faction's name to make money, these 3 people are actually capable of doing it. 3 people? Aren't there only 2? Little Shuai asked, puzzled. That bald old man is also the freckled young man's accomplice. Otherwise, with his strength, that sword of his would have already pierced through the freckled young man's heart. That array wouldn't have been able to block it at all, Mu Yu explained. Then should we protect the reputation of our array faction and not let these 3 people swindle others? After Little Shuai finished eating a stick of candied haws, he took out a few buns and skewered them into candied haws. This way, he wouldn't have to carry so many buns. Now that Yuman had caused everyone to be in a state of panic, all the cultivators were in danger. The status of the array faction had risen, and all kinds of powerful array techniques that could deal with Yuman were valued. Therefore, the array faction had become the hope of the cultivation world. At this time, if someone were to use the name of the array faction to buy Xian array treasures, it would definitely cause a mad scramble. Mu Yu pondered for a moment and thought of something. He said, "Of course we have to go and take a look." "That's great. They definitely wouldn't have thought that they would encounter the leader of the array talisman sect when they swindle others, right?" You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.